morning. Welcome to the show. This is Newday Saturday edition, and today is the 30th day of December 2017. So officially, it's just a day more to the end of the year 2017, and we're excited, thrilled indeed to be coming your way with our final show for the year 2017. The next time we'll come your way will be in the new year 2018, God willing. Today's show, of course, being the last of the year, we'll be doing a review of the topical subjects that made the headlines in the course of the year. We'll be looking at issues such as the bust-contaminated oil saga, the debate over Founders' Day celebrations. Is it a Founders' Day with an apostrophe S or an S apostrophe? Many other issues that I'll be outlining shortly in the course of the program. But as usual, we are coming to you live from the studios of TV3 here in Accra. We're also live on 3FM 92.7, also streaming live around the world online at 3news.com. Also on our Facebook page, TV3 Ghana, will be running from now till 9:50, where conversations will be brought to a close. We encourage you to, as usual, send through your comments, your contributions, your questions, if any, to our WhatsApp number, 050-0607-070. We'll be happy to share them with the rest of the world. We hope your Christmas celebrations have gone on smoothly so far, and you're eagerly waiting to wrap up on the year and eagerly looking forward to the ushering in of a brand new year. So coming up on the show this morning, we'll be looking at the bust-contaminated oil saga. Now, you do recall that sometime in June this year, news broke about the sale of some 5 million litres of contaminated oil by Bust to entities which were not licensed by the NPA to deal in downstream petroleum products, an act that was contrary to Section 11 of the NPA Act. Now, subsequently, the minority in Parliament called for a probe into this matter, to which the Sector Minister, Mr. Boakye Agyarko, responded with an announcement of the ministry's intention to set up a committee that would investigate the sale of the contaminated oil. You'll also recall that even before the committee could commence its work, the sector minister announced that at a press briefing that the BNI, together with the National Security and the NPA, had actually investigated the matter, and their findings had exonerated the MD of Bust, Mr. Alfred Obeng-Boateng, from any wrongdoing. Obviously, this development didn't go down well with many. We shall, on the show today, look at how this matter panned out during the year and whether or not the national security investigations brought closure to the matter. What about the ministerial committee that was set up to investigate the matter as well? Where are they now with the investigation? Should we expect a report on the committee's work anytime soon? Where exactly are we in relation to this matter? The panel will be weighing in on this matter. Also, we will be looking at developments at the Electoral Commission, which has led to ongoing hearings by a committee that was set up by the CJ to investigate some allegations that had been leveled against the chairperson of the EC and her 2 deputies. You do recall that in the course of the year, the president received 2 petitions for the removal of the EC chairperson and her 2 deputies on alleged grounds of financial mismanagement, abuse of office, and breaches of procurement laws, among others. Now, acting in accordance with the Constitution, the President forwarded the petitions to the Chief Justice, who subsequently set out to determine whether or not there was a prima facie case in accordance with Article 146 of the Constitution. Now, earlier on this month, there were news reports that the CJ had established that there was a prima facie case and had actually gone ahead to constitute a committee to look into the allegations of wrongdoing leveled against the EC chairperson and her deputies. Now, this was subsequently confirmed by a communique from the CJ's office, and so the hearings are currently ongoing, we are made to understand. We shall be looking at this situation, the impact of the proceedings on the workings of the Electoral Commission. Also up for discussion is the debate about the Founders' Day celebration. Now, the question is, who founded independent Ghana? This was another issue that split heads during the course of the year. There were hints of this debate from right from the president's address at the 60th Independence Day Parade. Then came Professor Aaron Mike Okwe's lecture, where he emphatically denied that, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah founded Independence Ghana. Subsequently, various arguments were advanced either for or against the motion that Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was or is the founder of Independence Ghana. Indeed, there was a proposal to have a new holiday to celebrate and honor all others who contributed to Ghana's independence, and not only to single out, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. So the panel will be looking at this debate and how it also played out in the course of the year, particularly in relation to national unity and cohesion. Now, the fight against Galamsey was also a very topical issue that played out in the course of the year. At the beginning of the year, there was widespread news reports about the destruction of our water bodies and the environment in general, owing to the activities of some illegal small-scale miners. Now, the Birim River in the eastern region had become completely polluted. Rivers Ankobra, Ofin, etc. had lost their glory as a result of illegal small-scale mining activities. Indeed, the Ghana Water Company Limited had warned of an imminent water shortage or potable water shortage if Ghana was not to, and Ghana was likely to import water within the next 20 years if the situation with their illegal small-scale mining was not checked. Of course, this, on hindsight, was a call to action, which got most Ghanaians, if not all Ghanaians, rallying around the anti-Galamsey cause. The Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Mr. John Peter Amewu, following his appointment, quickly took charge and led the campaign against Galamsey. Obviously, the media also played a part, formed a coalition, and actively campaigned against the menace. Government so far has demonstrated a commitment to the fight, with some successes being realized from the sustained efforts of the interministerial task force set up to fight the menace. Today on the show, we will be looking at how far we have come in our fight against Galamsey, what the challenges are moving forward, and what can be done to sustain the fight even some more. So these are the issues we've lined up in our review of the year 2017. At this point, we'll take a break. When we come back, I will introduce to you the panel for today's discussions, the panel that will be taking us out of the year 2017 into the new year 2018. We'll take a break. We'll see you shortly. Welcome back. This is Newday Saturday edition. We're live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7, and we're streaming live online at 3news.com, also on our Facebook page, TV3 Ghana. We'll get straight into matters here. I'll quickly introduce the panel for today's conversations. We'll start off with Honorable Murtala Mohammed, former MP, Nandom constituency, and also Nanton, constituency, and former Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry. We also have Professor Clement Jidonu. He is the president of the Accra Institute of Technology. We are expecting a representative of the NPP to join us. When he comes in, we will do the needful, but we'll start off our conversations with Prof. and Comrade Murtala in studio now. Good morning and welcome, gentlemen. How have your Christmas celebrations been so far?
It's been dry.
Need I ask you?
I don't think I'm the only person. Everybody knows. I mean, your station went around and interviewed people. Traders and businessmen have all expressed, you know, how dry the Christmas has been. But I think the good thing is that we are well and kicking, and I think that we are resilient as a people, despite the fact that we have been subjected, you know, to this intolerable level of economic deprivation and quagmire. I think that Ghanaians will pull through. Very
well, that's fine. Now, Prof, what about yours? Going well?
Peaceful, going well. Traveled to out of town, just got back, so going okay.
Very well, yes. That's good to know. So, yes. We will start our conversations with a look back on the debates that, you know, ensued during the course of the year about the Founders' Day celebrations, where, I mean, heads almost split on this issue. Founders' Day, why we are acknowledging, which is one out of, you know, many, and why don't we have, you know, a particular day for founders and other matters that came up along with that. But before we go in, let me quickly introduce Mr. John Kuma. He is a lawyer and also a member of the NPP communications team. You're welcome.
Thank
it's
you.
good to have you on the show.
He has also put on a lot of weight too.
That's per your observation anyways.
Oh, we've known each other for long, so
Very
when,
well.
when
You
he
can
changes
tell.
in size, I know.
Great. Anyway.
Just like he put on weight on
In the position.
Okay, so-
Me, I sleep.
Well,
I eat and sleep.
according to the politicians. Right. Anyway, so we'll proceed. I'll start with you, Prof. What did you make of that whole debate?
Well, Abena, first I want to wish your viewers and listeners all over the world Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I think it's good to say that it's great that we're here, concluded the year and looking forward to the new one. Now, on the Founders' Day issue, I think this issue is going to run and run and run. I think we put it to bed for now, just for it to resurrect again when the come September or come
Exactly.
August.
Right.
I think at the time that the issue came up, it was extensively debated. Yes, the nation split on that issue, on whether we celebrate one person or a group of persons, also on the issue of the day. Should it be August for September 21st? And also who to include and how far back in history should we go? And some even ask exactly what are we celebrating? We know we have Independence Day, which we celebrate our independence from the British. What exactly is the Founders' Day about? Is it celebrating a person or a group of persons? Some people also raise that issue. And of course, some people also raise the issue, is it actually the issue we should be talking about now? We have a lot of bread and butter issues that we must solve. There are great countries in this world who didn't have a Founders' Days or founded apostolic days, but they are making great strides. Whether bringing this into our currency as people on who should be celebrated and who should not be celebrated and which day should be celebrated and so forth, how far to go back in history, will change our lot as people. So for me, we have made some inroad in the debate, but without having a conclusion. As we stand now, the August 4th proposal is not yet formalized or agreed through Parliament, whatever. So I'm pretty sure, if I don't want to predict things, but one thing I'm sure which is going to come up again in 2018 is the Founders' Day.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yes, so for now, we are now busy with other things, probably the bread and butter issues. And then the time will come again and we'll jump up again and talk about it. So we will go over it again. For me, I don't really think we need to dwell on it too much without coming to a conclusion. For example, if in 2018 we still don't come to a conclusion, then we move it on again. After some time, become something we do every year as a ritual. So
speaking about, I mean, you said, I mean, there are those who are saying, let's focus on the bread and butter issues. I mean, really, what's this historical, you know, records about? Let's just focus on, you know, getting our nation to progress in the way that we want to. But there are those who are also saying that we need to, if indeed there's any distortion in the record of, you know, history, we need to set it straight. And that you need to know who you are as a people to know where you're going. What do you make of that?
Yeah, see, the thing about history is that people say history is subjective, is neutral. I doubt that. Sometimes history is the one who is narrating it. Look at all histories. The same event happen, and you get people to comment on it, and they give different twists to it. History is such a sensitive issue. It's something we narrate in order to make a point, how it happened. it's only a few occasions that how this happened is how it happened. But sometimes people always want to put a twist to it. It's for us to read through the lines and say whether that is a true history or not. Take, for example, the history surrounding the so-called Father's Day and so forth. We have different narrations, okay? One point I made at that time that we all become more or less historians during that debate. Okay, I didn't know quite a lot of things, good or bad or wrong or right, about the history of Ghana surrounding the independence and all that sort of thing during that time. But we got some good debate. People came out and put their view across, this is what happened, this is what Ghana is all about. So certainly, history will play a role in this debate. And some of them may not be what you might say is the true history of Ghana, but some people are actually trying to massage it a little bit in order to make that point. That is normal. We will have that happening. So I don't really see a problem with that. But as I said, one thing for sure, which is going to happen in 2018, I don't know whether by August 4th area time, or in August or in September. The September 21st is now part of our calendar. Yeah. That is certainly going to celebrate it. Whether it's going to be called the Fun Days or what, the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Day, we don't know yet. So we look forward to it. But again, it's one of the things we talk about and then we move on.
Very well. Now, let me move on to Comrade here. For the longest time, the history has been that, yes, founding father has been Osagyefo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. I mean, going back to primary school days, JHS and all of that, history books, that's what the record, shows. So where from this now? And then there are those who are also saying that, well, like Prof mentioned, there could be some bias, if you like, depending on who's telling the story. They say, I mean, until the lions learn to tell their own story, the tales of hunting would always glorify the hunter. So depending on who is, narrating, it's always going to be a twist here or there. Some have said, let's leave this to historians, leave out politicians, because, I mean, that's where you have the massaging coming in. Otherwise, you leave it to the professionals, they do their job, record is clear, there's no dispute about that.
Well, Abna, let me say good morning to your cherished viewers and, of course, Prof. and my brother and friend, John Kuma. I mean, we have come a very long way. I think that on Legon campus, we were virtually on the same side in the student politics. Of course, national politics. You grew
and had your...
Yes, of course.
You had to...
I think...
Disclosures. Okay.
The only instance where we differed a bit was when I was impeaching our JCR president, and he had a view. But I think that it's been good that we are found on different sides of the political divide. For me, it helps develop this nation. But let me also take the opportunity, as Prof did, to thank TV3 for the opportunity that they have created to us as panelists and also to the people of this country to mirror to them what is actually happening and tell them each side of the story in the political divide, in social issues, in economic issues. And I must say that you, regardless some of the challenges sometimes I have with you, I think that you've done extremely well as a host of this program. We just hope, looking forward to, and maybe sometimes certain things, expressions that we have, you would change some of those things that we think that there are issues that personally I don't feel comfortable. And I believe that other people may also not feel comfortable. But there are some who are very comfortable with what we do, and that is human nature. And TV3, to be very honest, is doing tremendously well. And I think it's important that we state that this is not the only TV station that we have access to have some of these discussions. But I think that your station is doing very well and worth our commendation.
Thank you.
And we're just hoping that getting into 2018, we will do things more than what we have done in terms of the positive side. And I'm not Christian, but I have friends who celebrated Christmas, and I just want to use the opportunity to wish them a Merry Christmas. Particularly in my constituency, I have a huge, Christian community. Janjor Koko is a classical example. We have a big church there. Sandu and many of the communities that we have Christians there. And I just wish them a Merry Christmas and an impending New Year. We are getting to New Year. I tell people that my resolution for the 2018 is that I have forgiven anybody who wronged me consciously or unconsciously. So I expect that those have also wronged, getting into 2018.
Reciprocity,
would forgive me. Because this life, we sit here, I can go home and then the next day you'll be told that I'm gone. I mean, this is how life is. In as much as we do our political discourse, we may take very strong positions, but I think that we must understand first and foremost that we are human. But let me come to
the substantive
issue. I don't know whether John did history when we're in level 100, but I did history level 100, level 200. You know, our time, they give you the courses, you do it, and then you choose your course when you get to level 200. I was fortunate to have been taught by Professor Adufeni, one of the most brilliant and experienced historians in this country. If you look at the SSS history, you know, he contributed significantly in writing. And I remember one day he was teaching us and told us that a society that doesn't recognize history, then that society is doomed to fail. And he gave us an example that when there was some conflict that happened in the north, where he was invited by the then President Rawlings. They wanted to know, and he said they wrote to them, and he wrote that there wasn't any history because he felt that much recognition was not given to history. We cannot let these issues go when you have just even the professionals, those in academia, who consciously and unconsciously will also try to twist the historical facts and evidences. Those things are very important. I was having a discussion of the resolution of the conflict in Dagbang, and someone raised question why the Asantehene, who is not a northerner and who is not representing an ethnic group that comes from the north, would be the one, you know, leading the dispute of mediation. And I said, you see, if people had understood that there is so much between the Gombes in particular and Asantes, then people would have appreciated why the then President Kufuor's administration would choose the Asantehene. Now, if you look at history written by very respectful historians like Professor Eduboyne and co., they have indicated, I read a lot of his books, that the Gombes were defeated by Asantes in 1770. Professor Ilyasu, who was then also a lecturer there, and remember, he was a doctor, it was after his death that they awarded him the title professor. He asked questions, and those questions are still not answered. And he said that the Gombes never fought with the Asantes, even though the Asante kingdom was one of the powerful kingdoms in Ghana at that time. But what he said was that there was what he described as economic symbiosis between the Gombes and Asantes. And the fact that if you look at the warriors in Dagbang, we call them Kamonanama, they don't use indigenous Dagomba names. In fact, they use indigenous Asante names. Kojo, Kofi, these are the names they use. He talked about the Tumpani and the Dowry. The Tumpani, which happened to be predominantly that of the Akan, which was brought in, and the Dowry in that order. So he said there was economic symbiosis. And that happened when the Gomba king, who wanted to become the Yana, indeed sought the assistance of the Asantes to help him fight his other brother to become. So there is that historical linkage. So history, for me, is sine qua non to our progress as a people and to our development. Now, if you have this appreciation, you would understand why we need to live together as a people. That notwithstanding, we have had people who have founded states, empires, and religions. Now, if you look at the argument that was being stretched, that no, you cannot give credit to Uli Osagyefo for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, then we can extend the argument. Look, religions were sent to man through God. God sent religion to men through people, individuals. But those individuals had what they call the disciples. Jesus Christ came with disciples, and some of the disciples played a significant role in preaching the gospel, in expanding the frontiers of the Christian faith. Now, can you say that those people can also be people who brought Christianity? Absolutely no. Take Islam. Islam was brought, and we Muslims will believe that all prophets came with Islam, but to the narrow sense so that people can appreciate. Prophet Muhammad had what they call the Sahaba, which are also the disciples. And beyond them, out of the Sahaba, they have 4 known caliphates. That is after him who succeeded. Abu Bakr came first. After Abu Bakr, then it came Umar. After Umar, it came, Osman, and after Osman and Ali. But you cannot say that these people brought their religion.
They helped propagate.
Exactly. But when you want to talk, you talk about one person. Now, when we come to our homes, you live in a home with your wife. You don't have control absolutely of the house. You control the house in partnership. In fact, it is not only limited to you and your wife. it extends to your kids, particularly when they are grown. It extends to them. That the extent to which every decision you want to take at home, you certainly would have to take into consideration their contribution. Now, even in our body politics, take the NDC. The NDC has a founder. But former President Rawlings was not the only person who founded the NDC. He did that with many other people. The Buza Dankwa tradition, initially it was Buddha Dankwa, then subsequently Dombo was added. But they were not the only people who founded that tradition. Now, if you say, because it is only limited to Nkrumah, we should extend it to other people, then clearly within the political space that you also operate, you have been unfairly treated other people. Now, if people want to push it in that extent, so at any point in time, we would have to have one founder. And is
that the case at any point in time?
Yes, at any point, we need to, because if you want to stretch the argument, that why it is not fair for the other people who contributed. There were people who were not elected. They were traditional leaders, the Aboriginal Rights Protections, the Fanti Confederation, mentioned them. In fact, Ya Asantua, who fought the British. We had Dogombes fought British
so that's in a
why
place called... saying it depends on how back, that is why I'm saying,
if you want, so if we have a founder, and with the palpable evidences I have given, that in the spectrum of religion, in social issues, you have founders, you have a founder, but that doesn't mean that the other people who have also contributed, we have what
should not be recognized.
But you cannot say that if you have a norm, we have this practice that we have a founder. Now you are now saying that no, let's do this. Remember, the debate didn't come out of nothing. You have the current Speaker of Parliament, who I respect in terms of his intellectual prowess. I disagree with him in many issues or positions he has taken politically. Now he had a press conference and chained out absolute falsehood. I mean, that contradicted historical...
He was taking out a lecture,
absolute falsehood. That contradicted even historical evidences. Now, this was what he said. You have a Minister of Finance. Any opportunity he gets, he tries to glorify his family lineage. And you have the President on the day he had the the inaugural speech. I mean, he attributed to this. Do we need this? President Kufuor could have also done that. Sometimes, like, it's better to allow sleeping dogs to lie. Now, you have a journalist who sat on another TV station and begin to question the contribution. And I think that that is why people raise these issues. I'll give you my experience. There was a statement I made very briefly. I made a statement in commemoration of the celebration of Dankwa in Parliament. I think his birthday. I made contributions to that. Dankwa direct, his nephew, was a member of Parliament. Who was there? You had other blessed memory, a very fine gentleman. Nobody raised questions. You had a journalist by name something Dodu. He wrote a long piece, chained out absolute falsehood. I mean, clearly demonstrated something that was not anywhere near a good journalistic practice, because the facts he put there were absolutely misleading. Because I raised questions. And at any point in time, those debates for me are important, they are necessary. But the extent to which you would want to change what has been the palpable evidence. And in fact,
but
some of the people...
When you say an attempt to change, what is that? How did that manifest in this
because some of the people, they wanted us to recognize.
It's about recognition,
not to say I'm saying that some of the people they wanted us to recognize were terrorists. And the terrorism, they were in fact convicted.
That's according to...
Please, I said they were convicted by a competent court of jurisdiction. And in some of the cases, sat the father of the current president, convicted them for terror. The father of the current, His Excellency President Nanado's father, was one of the judges who convicted one of them for terrorism. Then you think that we must recognize such terrorists as founders of this nation? I really think that we were indeed pulling it too far. And I'm saying that knowing the psyche, how His Excellency the current president came about, his ideological position, I strongly believe that deep down him, he would have. And that's why I'm saying that if we want to do that, then we must recognize Yasantua for the tremendous work he did. We must recognize the Bank King for that Dubo. We must recognize the Fantis. You would extend it. My great-grandparents, perhaps, who were farmers or cattle rearers, would have also contributed significantly towards what we have in Ghana today. So if you want to stretch that argument, I think that that is why people raise those questions about the motive.
Very well. So, I mean... clearly from your, the tail end of your thing, you're saying there needs to be that recognition. But if we're stretching it, then it begins to seem
they
a bit absurd because you're going to all
exactly
to all
and if you
lengths.
look at the narrative,
isn't it okay? But isn't it important also to recognize where it's necessary?
They have always been recognized. That's what I'm saying. But when you put it as an agenda of government, that you must change what we do, and I think that is where the problem is. I mean, it will be fully hardy for you to say that those who have also played a role, even those who were convicted for terrorism, they would have contributed some role, played some role in ensuring that we have independence today. Now, why would you have independence when the independence will create a lot of problems for you?
That's fine. I need to move on to John. John, you've heard Mutala saying all this, all that he has to say, but the question is, clearly there's this desire to have certain people recognized and honored, given what the party thinks was their contribution to the founding of independent Ghana. What do you make of the argument from the other side that, we can't stretch to all sorts of lengths?
Yes, thank you, and let me also say good morning to viewers. Mutala has said a lot already, so I will not repeat all that. Except to wish everybody Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. The arguments about founding fathers and founding fathers, as we have in this country, maybe it will be settled very soon. But the facts are very clear. We cannot have one founding father in this country. No matter how you twist history. And, I'm happy Mutala read political history. He will find out that in most cases, the people who are labeled as terrorists are the freedom fighters on the other side. And even on the day that Nelson Mandela was being sworn in as the president of South Africa, he was on the international terrorist list of the UN and the United States of America.
Indeed, I was reading something over the weekend. Margaret Thatcher, I believe, had referred to him as such, and
as a
he was never going to be president of going to lead South Africa
because he led a violent movement through the Sword of Nation, the group called the Sword of the Nation, to fight for the blacks against apartheid, among the rest. So check all those who fought for freedom in Africa. If you go to Zimbabwe, he was convicted and jailed for 10 years, Mugabe. So if you come to Ghana, it's not different. Nkrumah, J.B. Dankwa, Akonje, Obichebi Lamte and the rest went to prison several times in attempt to get us our freedom. And if you take the currency of Ghana, if you have any notes, I don't know if you have one here, I could show you. You will find out that almost on every currency in Ghana, we have 6 heads. There's a reason to that. Why don't we have only one head? So we, as a people, acknowledge that we cannot have one person who gave us our independence.
But the history, the record so far suggests that there is or there was one founding father.
Who brought that record? Because this so-called founding father was even brought in at the latter stages.
But then he eventually declared independence.
Well, are we looking for somebody who declared independence for us, or we are looking for somebody?
I think really my question is, so how come the record has been the way it is to this point where we are seeking to make some amendments?
Well, as for history, if you read the World War, it depends on which book you read on World War II. If you read a Japanese book on World War II, you realize that America didn't win. But when you read the European and American books, they will tell you that the Japanese were the enemies or the terrorists. So depending on who wins and who writes history, it changes over time, and time is always a neutral judge. And we have all found out over time, the facts are clear. When people came together to start to resist the white people, and I'm happy he talked about Aborigines rights and the Fanti Confederation and even Yas and Tuawa and all that. But the first political movement in Ghana was started by the UGCC. That's not true. Well,
again, there's different,
we all know
different arguments.
Of course, it's entitled to. Of course, it was not an NDC.
Who's telling the story?
Whatever it was not an NDC. It was a UGCC movement. And then later on, Akweje suggested that they brought in Kwame Nkrumah. I mean, so if people have fought all this while, and JB Dankwa had to foot your bill to bring you from London to join them. I mean yes, that is the fact. He had to pay about £100 to get him to Ghana.
It was a negotiated arrangement. Yes, you do this, you do that,
if somebody,
and I do my part.
So because it was negotiated, we shouldn't talk about it, that somebody had to pay bills for you to come down. Wow. And when he came, he was the only person who was paid as General Secretary. Whether it was 1 cedi, he was the only person who was on salary. When he was speaking, I was here. Please allow me to flow. So, you see, they cannot twist facts. And everybody who has followed the history of this country knows that Kwame Nkrumah came in when the grounds had been prepared. Wow. Yes, nobody can doubt his significant role. Nobody can downplay the fact that when he came in, he also ran with a vision and eventually got the independence for Ghana as the leader. That one is not in question. But we are not looking for somebody who declared independence for Ghana. We are looking for founding fathers of this country. And I've told you, pick any currency of this country. There's a reason why we don't have only one head. Why do we have 6 heads? We acknowledge that one person could not have gotten us independence. And so for the NDC to be telling us, I mean, that there was only one founding father in this country, when they themselves acknowledge...
It's not just the NDC that's saying that, of course, the CPP who are also saying, I mean, trying to get the records made. So.
And history has proved them wrong. And history will continue to prove them wrong because we all know the role that Kwame Nkrumah played and what the role the others played. We all know, even the name Ghana, it was J.B. Dankwa, it was through his research that we got the name Ghana. I mean, go and check. You will say nothing is true, but we all know the facts of this country. It is not, the facts of this country will not be written by NDC and Mutala and CPP. Even some CPP supporters understand that, yes, Nkrumah played a significant role, but they also acknowledge that there were other people who played more significant roles. And I mean, when you want to go into history, not only in Ghana, if you go to America, they have founding fathers. So, okay, so if that's fine, they're founding fathers. So what day, for instance, would we want to have set aside for founders, the S with the S apostrophe, Founders Day? And then what, we have Kwame Nkrumah Recognition Day or something? Of course, but I mean, with the current arrangement where Kwame Nkrumah's birthday is used as the Founders Day, it is very objectionable. If you want to celebrate Nkrumah, you can't call it Founders Day. And I strongly believe that we must have a neutral date that acknowledges the role of all the founding fathers and what they did for this country. Because history is very important.
But wouldn't that be a bit, I mean, stretching it to levels of, if you like, maybe absurdities? Because here, how far back are we going? Because you talked about Yasantua, for instance. So are we going all the way back? So you're going to mention every single name we know?
Yasantua did not found a political party.
But they all work towards
fighting
against colonialism.
I have stated that the first political movement in this country was the UGCC, and it was founded on 4th August. So we should limit it to political movements, is that what you're saying? Obviously. I mean, so we are talking about political independence.
So what about
we are talking about political independence here.
Again, then you see that the issue about how people can, you know, get up and raise red flags, because then you would seem to be marginalizing those who fought, but not in the political sense. So because then you are looking at
but we are looking at the debate is about political independence, and I'm saying that the major political date we have in this country is the 4th August, and that one acknowledges the UGCC. It also the UGCC also acknowledges Kwame Nkrumah as one of the founding fathers. You understand? Because he was also one of the leaders. In fact, he was the only paid leader amongst the rest. And he cannot come and assume the fact that he brought all the rest. When others paid you to work, and all of a sudden you want to take all the credit for yourself, it will not happen. That is not the history of this country. And like I've stated, we all already at an agreement when it comes to who founded this country. Take any currency of Ghana. You will not find only one head. There are 6 heads. I mean, and there's a reason why we have in this country what we call the Big 6. Why do we have Big 6 and not only one Kwame Nkrumah? Even the white people during the struggle acknowledged that it was not only about Kwame Nkrumah, and it was about other people
but indeed,
who were in the Big 6.
The events of 28th February, I mean, the Crossroads incident and all, there are those who are saying that perhaps propelled us towards, you know, the fight for independence even more. So those fallen heroes are also there. They need recognition. Some say they are not even recognized as much. What about such people?
They should be included if we are looking at founding fathers, those who sacrificed their lives.
So we go beyond UGCC to...
You see, we are saying founding fathers. Even if there are 1,000 people we could list, nothing prevents us. But it would be unfair to restrict it to one person. And Murtala makes argument about religion. And I am a Christian. I can tell you that there is nobody in the Bible that will compare himself to Jesus Christ. Nobody. Even John the Baptist, who was sent ahead of him to prepare the way, says that he doesn't qualify to remove the sandals of his shoe. So you cannot compare religion to what we are talking about here. We are talking about political leadership. And Kwame Nkrumah himself, I'm sure if he was alive today, will be very upset that Murtala says he's the only founder in this country. It will not be possible. He himself will acknowledge that, look, before he came, Akwaj, JB Dankwa, and the rest fought so hard to bring this country, the kind of freedom that we have in this country. And I'm sure he himself will be the first to acknowledge that others prepared the way for him, and that when even he came, when he was even the president, in some of his books, when you read, he acknowledges the role that Buzia, among the others, were playing, and that he says they should wait. When their time comes, then they can implement all the ideas that they think they have. He himself acknowledges that he could not have been the single founder for this country. We know the roles that others have played. And I'm saying that as a country, we have moved on. We have the Big Six as part of our history. When you pick any currency of Ghana, check it. You will not have only one head. You are going to have all the 6 heads on it. So how come when it comes to the question of founding fathers?
Not all the currencies have the 6 heads.
Well, I have checked.
Not all of them.
The 2 cedis doesn't have.
Well, the 2 cedis was printed by the NDC. That's why they don't have it. I mean, obviously they don't believe that. Of course, they printed the 2 cedis. So that is why they will make it like that. But the 2 cedis met the other currencies, and all of them have the 6 heads. So, but of course, there's a reason why we didn't put it on. Like what? Like which one? So clearly, I mean, the consensus is clear in this country. Everybody knows that Kwame Nkrumah as an individual couldn't have founded Ghana. And if you read the history...
consensus, if we had a consensus, we would not be discussing this now.
Oh, we do, except that some few people want to twist the argument and make it one person, which is not possible. He says the NDC has a founding father. That thing is even contrary to the Constitution of Ghana. You can't have one person founding a political party. Oh, check. You cannot. What did I say? No political... No, it's not what you said. It is in the NDC, Constitution.
I mean, the NDC had an arrangement.
Yes.
And had that.
So we can accept that as part of their weirdly legitimate arrangements. But it cannot be the status quo for this country. I'm coming. It cannot be the status quo for this country. If you want to form a political party, it must be nationally based. It must be from all tribes and all peoples before it can be considered as a political party. So even our Constitution acknowledge that you can't have one person or one group of people.
Founding political parties.
Yeah, but we are discussing founding fathers here. Yes. And I'm saying that even our Constitution acknowledges the fact that you can't have one tribe, one person saying that he's a political party.
But I mean, that is quite different from what the argument we're having here, which
I don't see it as different.
Founding fathers of a nation as opposed to founding fathers of a political party. I mean, I think we need to distinguish between the two.
It is important to recognize that before, in this country, we have had parties formed on tribes.
Oh, no, I understand that. All I'm saying is for this particular discussion we are having, the founding fathers issue is quite distinct from that of the political party and what the Constitution requires.
I don't have any argument, but I see a line of argument, a thread in it that you cannot have one group of people saying that they are forming a political party to be contrary to our Constitution.
Okay, that's what you let's move
and the point I'm making is that you can also extend it to say that in view of the position of our Constitution, you cannot have one individual saying that he founded Ghana. On what strength? How can an individual say that he founded Ghana when we know the history of this country and the role everybody has played? So I totally disagree with that posture. It is not possible. I mean, we can have a Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Day for his efforts, which I acknowledge he did great for the movement. But he couldn't have founded Ghana. And he himself, if he was alive today, would be very upset with people like Murtala and the rest who want to credit him with more than he deserves.
Very well. That's fine. No, I'll come to Province and I'll come to you, Murtala. Prof, please, let me hear you on this. How, I mean, at what point do we say, okay, we are, or from which point do we begin to recognize every single person who clearly worked towards this? Because both sides, you know, Murtala spoke, John just speaking, clearly, you know, acknowledge that others prepared the way at any given time. Whoever came in had some grounds, you know, already covered by others. So nobody can clearly say they did it all alone. And indeed, I don't think anybody has said, for that matter, Kwame Nkrumah declared that he founded Ghana. It's the records that show. Historians have put that record together, and that is what we have. So at what point, how do we even assemble people who fought for independence? You raised a point earlier. To what point? Where are we starting from?
Yes. Now, you see, I mean, as I said, we are going to go through this again. You could see from my two colleagues already have started already. We are not going to land. Even if the government goes ahead and declare 4th of August, the Founders' Day, the question also arises, are we going to have holiday on the 4th of August, and then come September 21st, we have another holiday? Will the economy be able to sustain those frequent holidays?
And even if we had that arrangement, that wouldn't even address the issue about founders, because August 4th is for UGCC, 21st is for Kwame Nkrumah. At what point do we celebrate that?
Yes, that is the
togetherness,
problem.
if you like.
That is the problem. We are not going to land on those issues. Whatever way we land, we are not going to land. We'll continue to debate it. As who knows, the NDC also come to power and they change things around. Just how we do for the SSS, 3 years, 4 years kind of debate. So I think this is going to be on for a long time. You ask the question, at what point? That is the difficult part of the historical this underlines of this debate. At what part? It's not only at what point do we start from, it's who to include. In fact, I used to joke that, you know, when you look at Southern Africa and some part of East Africa, the whites were there for quite a long time. Like a place like Kenya, they were actually planning to settle there. Like a place like Zimbabwe, they actually consider that is home for them. Right. That is a place for South Africa. But when you look at West Africa, the white packed and left quite early. I think the mosquitoes also play a role there. The mosquitoes also play a role to make this place uninhabitable for the white to live. Will you say the mosquitoes are also part of the founders of this country? You see, we can go as far as we want to go. That's on a lighter note.
I like that.
That's on a lighter note. Yeah. The point I'm making is that a lot of circumstances and people contributed to where we are as people. Okay? I don't think any other party disagree on that a lot of people contributed. Yeah. Circumstances contributed. Circumstances beyond even our control, external to our country, contributed to where we are as a people, as a nation. The debate is not about that. But the question is, who do we recognize? Now, I made a point earlier on. What exactly are we celebrating on the Founders' Day? What is it about? Are we celebrating the founding of a nation? Or are we celebrating somebody who founded the nation? I don't think we are clear on that.
Right.
Okay? If we are celebrating the founding of a nation, then we are all founders of that nation. Is that correct? You may say, okay, yes, we acknowledge that we all founded that nation. Our grandfathers, our grandmothers, they all contributed in one way or other. Such as the JT, the farmers, the fishermen, okay? They all gave the white man a bit of help to pack and go. So they're all part of contributing to the founding of the nation, Ghana. I don't think anybody will debate that. But I think the issue is, which day do we select? And then whose name do we put there? Whose name or couple of people? You see, that's why some people who are against changing the one person to a number of people argue that, oh, you are bringing in these other members of the big six. What about others? So I don't have answers to that. But it just brings the issue make the issue much more complicated. And I said we continue to debate it. The two protagonists are not going to land on this issue. They will never land. We can debate this for the next 3 hours. They will never land. as we are discussing, I'm sure viewers they are also debating.
Oh, yes.
So we've gone through this again. I'm sure Bernard will ask you, Bernard, why did you bring this again?
I know.
At this time of the year, probably want to wait until
So
that time we will. Yes.
Of the
but
year.
anyway, we are reviewing the issue. So I think that it's one of those things we debate. The great thing I like about Ghanaians is that we can disagree as much as we can disagree, but we don't go to boxing match. We do a lot of Georgia. So we're going to do a lot of this as thank God. But again, as I said, the history of a nation or the past that does not have serious bearing on the present is all very important. The question I must say, the funded this debate, does it have a serious bearing on our bread and butter issue, which is the matter of the future?
Very well.
Okay, so for me, those are the fundamental issues that we are not finding answers to. But the debate for me will continue, and we're not going to get any resolution.
But at some point, we need to end this debate. But before you come in, I need to read some messages, and then we'll take a break. When we come back, you have your say. This is coming in from Kizito in Tema. He says, "Good morning, Abna. Tell John that we have one head on the Ghana and the 2 CD note, and the 6 heads appeared when they redenominated the CD." Abna, can you please tell me why we have big 6 instead of big 1? Ghana will remain. Prof said so. The viewers and listeners are also, going on with it. Ghana will remain as it is if we cannot remember our founding fathers. I am sad for this country and the twist of history. It will be difficult to be patriotic if these things are being done to our heroes. It saddens my heart that I am a Ghanaian. I'm really sad. That's Oracle from Barracks in Newtown Hall. Al Hassan Wananas in Wa says, "Good morning to you and your panelists. The good people of Ghana have the hope that President Akufo-Addo will work hard and turn the fortunes of the nation for all to enjoy come 2018. God bless us all." Okay. And Seyram in Sogakope says, "Does this NPP man think the history of Ghana is in NPP manifesto?" I now understand why they took, he says, when they took, okay, I'm not saying, you're saying they took history out of social studies. I'm not, I don't quite get that. Okay, that's an important thing because history really should be brought back. Totally should be brought back. Good morning. Let me go on with this. Good morning, Abna. Will the Founders Day put food on our table? Why do we fight for credit and fame? Politicians should give us a break. That's Gilbert in Takrade. This one is coming in from Justice in Koforidua. He says, "The fact is that many are called but few are chosen. Many started the fight, but Kwame Nkrumah declared independence of Ghana. Many countries have a lot of people on their currency, but only one founder." Brighton Ada says, "Was it not elections that Nkrumah won? So are we saying if the other side won, he could have been founder?" Joke, he says, what jokes? Okay. Abna, good. Merry Christmas to you and your panelists. The debate on the Founders Day, just as Prof said, should not be too much of a headache. The truth is only one, and no amount of twisting will change it. Aram Adenta, that's a news site. Abna, even in our social studies books, all those involved in our independence had their names mentioned. And as we were growing, we knew the role they all played. Why do we want to rewrite the history? Ghana must move on. That's Aram in Adenta new site. Alhaji Said in Adenta Frafaha says, "Kwame Nkrumah is simply the founder of modern day Ghana. No one can change it." Okay, on that definite note, we'll take a break. When we come back, we will have the panelists give their concluding remarks on this subject, and then we go to other topics. You're watching and listening to Newday. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Newday Saturday edition. We are live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7, and we're streaming live around the world on 3news.com, also on our Facebook page, TV3 Ghana. The conversations were ongoing even whilst we were on break, and it was interesting here. We will be concluding on the subject, and we'll move on to the other matters outlined. But I'll take some messages quickly. This one says, "Good morning, Abna. I'm Yaya Fuseni from I'm not sure I can pronounce this too bad." He said, "I eternally commend the government in the fight against galamsey. I urge chiefs and the mining committees to lend their full support to government in curtailing this environmental and social canker." Good morning, Abna. I thank TV3 for your educative programs such as Newday. I particularly enjoy the newspaper review segment. Whenever Honorable Mutala is seated, I admire his submissions. I admire submissions of Professor Clement Judonu of AIT. I love it whenever he asks, is that correct? Okay, thank you all. Good morning. Remind John Kuma that the 6 heads on our currency came into existence on July 1st, 2007 by the same, he says, self-acclaimed owners of Ghana, the NPP. All these were the evidence of them trying to change history anytime they got power. That's Tijani Abdul Samed and Daboya. Good morning, Abna, and your panelists. He says, I hope. Okay, so this one is saying, I'm disappointed in the NPP man, and I hope that he's not a teacher because he will mess up the kids. I'm surprised that he is comparing founding fathers of a nation to fathers of a political party. Hashtag time will tell. That's, this is coming in from Boko. Good morning, Abna. John Kuma should rewrite our history. Before independence, the UGCC had already been disbanded after they lost to the CPP in an election in 1951. Busia went ahead to form the UP. And that's how come we have the UP tradition. There was nothing like the UGCC when we finally got our independence. The CPP and Nkrumah founded Ghana. That's Kobiasem in Dome. Last one here I'll take says, any country, family, religion, or institution with more than one head is only to be likened to a beast. Ghana has only one head and will always have one leader at any given time. Six heads on our currency is only a recognition of special rules they played in bringing us independence. That is Osei Otoyo. Thank you for your messages so far. Please keep them coming through. We'll be reading them as we go. Now I'll go to Motala quickly. We need to wrap up on this. Yes,
quickly. My brother here said that, he asked a question why all our currencies we have success, and thank God that a texter had indicated, and he then turned around and says, because it was printed by the NDC. He has forgotten that a lot of the currencies that were also printed by the NDC, which had the BRICS, was that. So clearly, other issue that I want to talk about, I'm not too sure whether he was listening to me. I talked about Jesus Christ, and I said none of them can be matched to Jesus Christ. But they also contributed and played a role. And I want to talk about Prophet Muhammad, that his Sahaba or disciples cannot be matched to him, but they played a role. It is also not true that Nkrumah was on salary, and I need to point out to Mr. John Kuma very clearly. The UGCC was not a political party. Get that very, very clearly. It was a movement. In fact, when Nkrumah was promised, when he was asked to come to Ghana, Nkrumah had already made name in North America and in the United Kingdom. Nkrumah's expertise was what the UGCC needed. So it is not as if a favor was done to Nkrumah. They promised Nkrumah a house. They promised him a car. They promised him £100 a month. They never paid him money. They never provided him a car. They never provided him a house. Now when Nkrumah came, and Nkrumah never angrily left UGCC, and I would urge my brother to read A Speak of Freedom, written by Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And he indicated that he had even written an apology letter. The flimsiest and the funny reasons on which Nkrumah was dismissed from the UGCC was when Nkrumah was away in Sultan. Oforiata and Obechebe Lamte went to his office, ransacked the office, and picked an unsigned communist membership card. It was one of the grounds. The other ground was that Nkrumah was using comrade, and that is why some of us want to be called comrade, because when you address comrade, it hurts them. That is another thing. Two, the UGCC...
So you use it to hurt people?
They feel uncomfortable with it.
Is that... Okay.
They feel uncomfortable with it. Because if they could start Nkrumah as one of the reasons, why they could start Nkrumah. And another issue that my brother must understand, that it is not true that our constitution says that you cannot have a founder of a political party. It is not true. There is nowhere in our constitution. Don't push that agenda. The other issue he talked about has to do with the fact that, Nkrumah himself would even frown upon this. It is not an NDC matter. CPP, members of civil society group, people who are not engaged in politics, had problems with what your government was attempting to do. Now, if you want to extend it, my grandfather, the late Tolena Yakubu, who played a significant role in the formation of the UP, perhaps my good brother John Kuma should understand that at a time when they abolished political parties not to be formed on tribal ethnic grounds, Buza went to parliament with only his seat. D.S. Dombo, who was the leader of the Northern People's Party, had 15 seats. Now they formed a UP that created the UP, 1 seat and 15 seats.
And then they became, at no point in time did you recognize the SD Dombo as one of the founders. In fact, this started in 2004 by the then MPP National Secretary, that fine gentleman, who was the MPP National Secretary, the MP for Okre. Damboche. Now you brought in. Why are you not bringing the other people who participated in it? So don't bring UGCC. You can talk about the UP. The UGCC was, as a matter of fact, the motion of destiny that gave us independence. Your party voted against that motion in Parliament. Your party voted. And this is a parliamentary record. Now he talked about terrorism and he said that Mandela and co were recognized as... John, I beg you. We are talking about people who were recognized as terrorists, in fact, convicted by a competent court of jurisdiction. We are not talking about colonial masters recognizing freedom fighters as terrorists. That is the sharp difference. We are talking about a court in which the current president's father was one of the justices who ruled and described some of them as terrorists. Why would you compare the two?
Thank you very much. Let me move to Prof. briefly, concluding remarks on this, and we go.
Yes, as I've already made a point that this we're not landing now. We're going to continue to debate it. Very interesting thing is that Nkrumah, J.B. Dankwa and his group never called themselves founders of anything when they were alive. It's we, the children who are coming down to make all this fight. But as again, we are not going to land now. We're going to debate it. It's okay. But one day we will come to some conclusion.
Hopefully, it's soon. Yes, John, quickly, and then we'll
First of all, let Mutala understand that he cannot teach me what is history in this country. And Mutala, keep quiet. When you were talking, I was here. It's not about shouting. Yeah. You have to make your point. You are shouting. Don't shout. Please. Just rest.
John, let's carry on. Yeah.
Yes. And secondly, we all know how Kwame Nkrumah came on the scene. And I have stated clearly, and I still stand by that Nkrumah cannot be the founder, the only founder for this country. And no amount of propaganda will change that. Indeed, when the CPP won power, in 1956 and even up to until 1966 that he left power, he never instituted Founders Day for himself. It is the NDC, the same NDC, because they want to woo CPP members. Why can't you?
Please allow him to make a submission.
Humble yourself,
please,
and contain yourself. Why? When you were talking, I was sitting here.
John, carry on.
It is the same NDC trying to woo a CPP members who are carrying out this founder propaganda just to attract CPP members. Let me tell you,
it's an
the NDC can, of course, why? But what is wrong? If you carry an agenda, what is wrong with that? You cannot be more Catholic than the Pope.
You made your submission.
Let me tell you, the NDC cannot be more Nkrumahist than the Nkrumahist party itself. You cannot be more Catholic than the Pope. It's a hypocritical agenda. Look, your founding father, he's alive. Why aren't you instituting a day for him?
But you said we don't have a founder.
But please, why must he respond to everything I say here? He's going to destroy the program.
You carry on.
You see, so clearly, everybody knows that in this country, we have founding fathers. And I am saying that the NDC agenda to create division by making it look like it is only Kwame Nkrumah who brought Ghana into being, it is totally false. It has never been the case, and it will never be the case. We will continue to ensure that all those who played significant roles, in fact, the NPP did not invent the term Big Six. And anybody who has read history of Ghana knows that our political movement, the UGCC, did not start with Kwame Nkrumah. And whether it was disbanded at independence or not, whichever political parties that came forth later, CPP, UP, whatever, they all took their roots from the UGCC. So today, if you are talking about founding fathers and those who work to put Ghana on our political journey of freedom that we have today, it is not Kwame Nkrumah alone. Yes, we acknowledge he played a role. And we also acknowledge that others played very significant roles. And so the NDC cannot twist the history of this country to suit an individual for political purpose. Okay. We have to protect the interests of this country. And he says that his grandfather played a significant role. What prevents your grandfather from being added to the list of founding fathers? If my grandfather played a significant role.
No, Mutala, please.
In your party.
Mutala, please exercise restraint. No.
Mutala, it is always.
John, you're engaging him.
And in your party, when he was speaking, I could have.
Mutala, it's okay. That's fine. No. You are done.
about what we do in our
Karen.
party. You are happy
It's
having
a
a
historical
founding
fact.
father.
Murtala,
Why are you
please,
not
your
celebrating your founding
interjections
father?
are too
Now,
much.
Karen, Murtala, why
Please,
disrupting
let's
the
allow
program?
let's
I
allow
want
the
to
program
ask
to
the
flow. I
NDC
beg
a
you, carry
question.
on.
Why are they not celebrating their living founding father? And they are so quick to fight about a founding father who belongs to the CPP. What is their motive?
Very well.
Let them answer that question.
I think that's
and
fine.
once they
We
find
can-
the answer to that question, they'll realize that it's all propaganda.
Can I answer
it is
the question?
No, you
hypocritical,
can't.
and it will not help the cause of this nation. We have one country, Ghana, founded by the big six, and
Very
all
well.
others who contributed.
Very well. Thank you very much. We've concluded with this big the Founders Day issue here. We're moving on to another hot issue, and this one has to do with the Bost contaminated oil saga, which rocked the country sometime in June this year. There was lengthy debate on this matter. Committees were set up. We'll be looking at that. But I will start, Prof, start us off with this one. Looking at the Bost 5 million liters of contaminated oil that was sold to some companies, Pina and others, and these companies were deemed not to have been licensed or were not licensed by the NPA, which was contrary to the NPA Act, which requires that for companies that were to deal with downstream petroleum products, they had to have licenses from the NPA. Now, this story first broke in June, and there was a national security, like a BNI, NPA investigations into it. The report subsequently issued that exonerated the MD of Bost from any wrongdoing. Now, 6 months down the lane, would we say that the BNI report has done justice to the matter?
Well, Abena, I won't know, because it's still not a close matter from all indications. Certainly, when the news broke up, people think it has some dimensions, a criminal dimension, and contaminated oil and distributed within our system, which is a criminal thing to do. There's also a corruption aspect to it. And then the political twist came in, which also crowded the issue. So I wouldn't say that the BNI investigation or their report or whatever brought closure to the issue. I understand some committee have been set up, a ministerial committee have been set up to look into it. And I don't know whether they have concluded yet. But I said this is also an issue which is going to come back again in 2018. I think that will be my brief on this issue.
Very well. I'll move to John here on this issue, speaking about the ministerial committee that was set up to look into the issue. I mean, indeed, the minister at the time when he was addressing a press conference announced that, yes, there was going to be a committee that was set up to look into it. But before the committee could start its work, the BNI report came out that exonerated the MD. Obviously, I mean, there was so much hue and cry about that, because some people were of the opinion that the issue required, further investigation, perhaps a holistic investigation going way back into time to look at the practices at Boston. All that we didn't see happen. But then the ministerial committee was set up. How far has that gone? Do we have any reports coming out that would bring closure to this matter? Because there were issues about internal controls at Bost that we had to address to avoid the recurrence of such incidents.
Well,
where are we with the ministerial committee's report, for instance?
Well, this Bost saga, I thought, has been handled, and the attempt by the NDC to hold on to straws and their desperate attempt to tag the NPP government with corruption where there is none is the cause of all this continuous discussion of Bost matter, because clearly it is this same NDC who preached acceptance of institutional independence and agreement.
But this issue can't be an issue that is of interest to only the NDC. I mean, consumers general are concerned about it. You're talking about contaminated oil going onto the market. People's cars have been affected.
Yes.
Or could have been affected. It's really,
an
issue.
We, at a point, we even heard some NDC activists saying they bought fuel from filling stations that nearly destroyed their vehicles. But when they were asked which filling stations, none of them could point out. Clearly, there are regulators on the market. I mean, they are always in a hurry to do propaganda with matters that must be dealt with as a whole. This Bost matter, the contamination happened under the NDC. I mean, even the date that the contamination happened, the new Bost MD had not taken office. So if there's a criminality to it or gross intelligence to it, it is the NDC. And yet, the price...
But how conclusive did the BNI reports make of these things?
Yes, but
that's why we're asking. You said it's brought closure to it, but it generated the MD.
It clearly says that the MD, as the NDC was attempting to tell the whole world that was corrupt about the process, was never corrupt. I mean, clearly all the facts show that the event even happened ahead of time. And since he took over, I mean, over the period.
But did the report make pronouncements on exactly how things happened, where should things lie, if indeed there are any culpabilities or liabilities found?
I think there were specific allegations made against the MD of Bost that, first of all, he caused the contamination, he benefited from it, and sold it to a company that didn't even have the capacity to buy. These were the specific allegations. The BNI came out to say that, no, the contamination actually happened under the NDC John Mahama government. That is the fact. You are always denying facts. Why is the NDC like that? And they won't even shut up. Mutala, maybe you talk on this program, because even when I'm talking ahead of you, you're interrupting.
John,
so when it's your turn, I'll do the same thing. So clearly, the facts were clear. It happened under the NDC. All the Bost MD did was to sell. And his price was one of the highest on the market. If you compare all the contaminated oil that have been sold under the NDC, this one was the highest. These are the facts. So clearly the attempt to say that he benefited was not true. And these were matters that have been settled. But I'm saying that going forward, the issue of whether these things landed on the market, how could that be? We have NPA, which regulates how these oils go to specific areas and not onto filling stations. So if you said that you went to a particular filling station and you bought an oil that affected your engine, where did you buy it? What report did you make? And what happened? Because there are regulators who ensure that the quality of oil that is sold on the market meets standard. So let us stop the propaganda. The specific allegations that were made, as far as I'm concerned, was dealt with. And clearly there has been no contrary evidence that the current Bost management benefited from the transaction. There has been no contrary evidence.
That's fine. But for me, what is important here, aside, I mean, this whole political issue that, you know, come in when we discuss this issue, again, has to do with the consumer. At the end of the day, political issues aside, you're looking at the consumer. And for me, one thing I thought we could, as a nation, take from this whole issue was, you know, a point where we would actually have gone deeper into the matter. Because like you're saying, and indeed it was reported that there was, you know, it goes way back. The practice of the sale of contaminated oil goes way back to, you know, before the current administration. That's a fact that I mean, it was stated as such. So why don't we, or why didn't we take the opportunity to go deeper to see how we could deal with the internal controls at Bost to ensure that, one, we don't even have the situation where you have oil being contaminated. And then you would now have to deal with the disposal of these contaminated oils. Do you get what I mean? So you're looking at a situation where this would have been holistically dealt with. So 6 months down the lane, that's what I'm asking, 6 months down the lane, what have been the reforms, perhaps, or for instance, that have been instituted in Bost that we are sure of as consumers that, yes, these systems have been put in place, we are not going to have these things recur? Aside the consumers, you do realize that there tends to be losses to the state. Even though you're saying
I totally agree with you. But what I'm saying is that that's exactly what has happened. Since the new management took over, have you heard about further contamination of oil?
But the management was in place when the contaminated oil was sold.
No, I'm talking about the new management. They took over, the thing happened before the new management took over. The contamination
happened, but the sale happened when they were in office.
Yes, but once it's contaminated, it has to be sold.
Sure, but you are saying that when they took over, have I heard of anything? And I'm saying the matter happened with the sale of the contaminated oil happened under their watch, the new management.
Yeah, but they have to sell it. And they sold it transparently, they sold it at the market prices, and I mean, the attempt by the NDC to show corruption didn't happen. And what I'm saying is that Bost has to do its work. And since, I mean, this incident happened, and of course there's been public outcry about how these matters have been handled, over the past few months, all we have heard is about boss declaring profits. We have never heard that this contamination has been going on. If it has happened again under this new management, then you can say that we didn't take any lessons from what happened previously. Maybe what I will agree with you is what has happened to those who caused the contamination. And I think we have been a bit slow in punishing people who cause a lot of public debt and mismanagement of our public purse. And I think people are having too much liberties with some of the things they do to hurt the public purse. So some of the, I can agree with you that maybe we should have seen those who committed those illegalities, or whether it was deliberate or it was not, and what has happened to them. Those are answers I think maybe we are waiting for.
Exactly.
But in terms of going forward, I think that so far boss management has done well. We have not had a repeat of this contamination since this last one that happened under NDC date. As for the sale, boss exists to sell. So we will always continue to hear them sell, whether it is good oil or bad oil, whether it's contaminated or not contaminated.
But it's not good to have them, I mean, constantly having contaminated oil. It's not the best.
Are we not on the same homepage? Has it repeated again? I'm saying that under this new government, we have not heard that there has been further contamination of oil, unless maybe you have heard and I don't know. So it should tell you that measures have been put in place to ensure that there is no recurrence of such events. And if, I mean, there's any complaint, it should be targeted at those who caused that contamination and what has happened to them.
And who is to do that?
Yes, I'm saying that I agree with you that unfortunately we don't have answers to these people, saboteurs, who did this to the state and what has happened to them. If we want answers on those lines,
so clearly we can't say there's closure on this matter. Because until we see all of those,
we don't know publicly doesn't mean nothing has happened. And sometimes, I mean, you are the media. You need to go and find out, because management may take decisions that may not be reported in the media.
I know.
So,
yeah.
So we have to find out what has happened to the investigations that were conducted and what actions have been taken. You cannot just sit on air and say that nothing has been done.
Well, I know for a fact that the ministerial committee's report, in fact, the ministerial committee that was set up by the minister to look into it is yet to present a report. And that they had a certain time frame within which
other
they had to work.
investigative bodies got involved, and there may be actions based on the reports that have already come out of the investigative bodies. The BNI was involved. Even BOSS as a management had an internal investigation committee that came out with reports. So you cannot base only on one investigative committee, the ministerial committee. There were other investigative bodies that came on board and gave recommendations and reports on what happened. So whether an action has been taken based on that or not, you don't know for a fact. So we need to be sure what has happened. But what is important is that since the last contamination under the NDC, we have not had further contaminations under the NPP reported. And that is very important. It is critical to take notes and know that we are taking lessons from what has happened and moving on and making sure we are protecting public purse. And I think where I will agree is that when people deliberately cause cost and debts to public purse, we must know the price they pay for such behavior, and it must be made public.
Very well. Let me move quickly to Murtala here with this issue. And I know definitely you've taken some points there and you want to respond, but I need you to address a very particular question here, which has to do with bringing closure to this. How do we bring closure to this when clearly there are still outstanding issues? Well, John is saying that we haven't heard anything happen, so presumably everything is going on well. Are we to make that presumption? Is there any basis for us to rely on such, I'm
not too sure whether I should cry or I should just fly. That absolute falsehood have been peddled and perpetrated on your viewing public without a shame. It is absolutely a fat lie, and I say it with emphasis, that the contamination we had, and for which reason, we were told that 5 million liters of oil happened under NDC. That is a fat lie. I am guided. Can I? But
I also have to.
I'll tell you what happened. I'm giving you the evidence.
Is it not true that the contamination happened
never happened under
the taking over by this current
that is a fat lie.
I mean, that
is a fat lie, and he succeeded
in perhaps convincing you.
Not convincing
No,
me. He didn't have to convince me. I know that.
I'm saying that
he didn't have to convince me.
I sit on a program.
John, just a minute.
I
John,
sit
just
on
a
a
minute.
program, and
You carry on.
he just told us here that he is a Christian. I think he should be guided by.
But you also told us that you are Muslim.
That is why I am
Gentlemen,
guided.
let's take this. Listen.
That is
Let's
why.
take
That
the
is why you
personal
told us
issue.
that you are Muslim.
Yes, I
So
did.
what is wrong with
Yes,
that?
just a
I'm making a point.
Just a minute.
That is why.
No,
Yes,
just a
I
minute.
agree.
Just
That's
a
why
minute.
I'm
a Christian.
No,
John, just
you
a minute.
see, you see where he is.
No,
going.
Murtala.
So I expected
John,
you
please,
to.
just a minute.
I know.
Gentlemen.
Oh, please don't even.
Hold
bring
your
Christianity. I'm
horses.
saying
Yes,
you should be
hold your
guided-
horses. No.
You should be guided by the
John, just a
teachings.
minute.
No,
Murtala,
you should be guided by
Murtala.
the teachings.
Just a minute. Can we have some? Can we have some? Can we have some order here? No. Murtala, let's have some. Let's have some. No, I'm coming. Allow me. Just a minute. Allow me.
Can I make my
Allow me. Listen.
No, you can't make
Your
your
mics
point
are
and
off,
make
by
these
the way.
statements.
Listen. The point is this: we don't need this kind of engagement here, please.
Yeah, but when you
And
started,
let's cut
I
out.
prompted you.
Let's,
This is what you
John,
just
don't
installed
tell
the
me,
program.
please. Don't try to tell me what to do. I know what I'm doing here, please. Murtala
Yes.
and John, please, let's try to keep
Abena,
personal
I am-
issues
I am
out.
on the floor.
Let's try.
But
You are, but yes.
Abena,
John, allow me.
I am saying-
Let's
okay,
try to
Abena,
keep the
please.
personal issues
Abena,
out.
please.
You can make your submissions
Yes,
by
Abena.
not referring to the fact that he's a Christian
no,
and should be. So
no.
please
What
carry
I
on.
have said-
Let's
what I have
just
said
stick
has
to
got
that,
nothing
please.
to do with your faith.
No, but you
What
made
I am
reference
saying-
to that, and please
what
let's
I'm
keep
saying-
it out.
I am saying that
Let's keep it out.
the
Yes.
scripture encourages
Let's
all
keep
of
it
us,
out.
whether Christians or Muslims, to be truthful at all point in
That's
time.
fine. You
what
can
I
say
said.
that, but you don't need to make.
Abena.
John, that's
Abena.
fine.
Everybody knows you in this
Abena.
country.
John, no.
What is the universal truth or what?
Listen,
Abena.
you would make me. We will need to take a break, seriously,
No, Abena,
to calm down. I don't like the way this is going. Seriously.
Contamination happened in 2013. Contamination that happened under the NDC happened on the 24th of December 2013 under Iwodaku. What Iwodaku did, and the contamination that happened was 200,000 liters. It was not even up to 500,000 liters. 200,000 liters. And I expect your journalists to investigate and prove me wrong or my brother wrong.
Contamination
It-
John,
please,
please allow.
I'm
Please
saying
allow
that the
him.
last
Allow him make his
contamination we
submissions,
have
please.
had was on the 24th of December 2013. And it was...
John, can you allow him to make his submissions, please?
You know he did the same thing.
Oh, please.
So that's how you want to run the show?
Yeah, I
Please,
prompted him
I
to do
will
the
not
same thing.
allow that.
I will
I beg
proceed
you.
with
I will
the
not. I mean, if you carry on like this, we may probably have to. Say goodbye to you, and then we carry on. We will take a break at this point, so you gentlemen can calm down. Honestly, you're being
I told you.
totally impossible. We'll see you later.
When you are speaking, you let
Welcome back. You're watching and listening to Newday Saturday edition. We're live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7, and we're streaming live online around the world on 3news.com, also on our Facebook page, TV3 Ghana. Just before the break, we were looking at the Bost contaminated oil saga that rocked the country sometime in June, and the discussions have gone on subsequently. John Kuma finished with the submission. I turned to Murtala Mohammed to make his, and then there was that brouhaha, so we had to take that break. But we're back. I think they promised to be of good behavior moving forward, and so Mr. Murtala, I think, has something to say to Mr. John Kuma.
Once
He's
again,
going
John Kuma and a
to
baby.
apologize, and then they carry on. So, okay, no, please. We are fine now.
Well,
Carry on.
Abena, what I'm saying is that it is not true that the contamination we had happened under NDC. That is not true.
Do you have the date? When did that
Yes,
happen? Because
I'll
we
tell-
know
yes,
it
I'll
happened
tell
in
you.
January.
Yes, I'll tell
When?
you. I'll tell you. We have had contaminations
Yes.
at Bost, and anytime it happens, there are processes by which you clean it, so that you can get the market value. If not, you'll not be able to. And Abena, there's something they call the slop. In a simple sense, the slop is that assuming you use a tanker for diesel, and then after you have indeed emptied the tanker, you want to use the same tanker for petrol. So what they do is that they would add some petrol into the tanker to rinse it. That particular petrol, the fuel that you take out, you don't throw it away. You sell it, and it is being used by a lot of people in other industrial activities. Now, that fuel when you do that, you need just little fuel to be able to clean, or if like rains the tank, to be able to use it for that purpose. Now, in 2013, specific date, on the 24th of December 2013, that was the last contamination we had under the NDC. And it was a total of 200,000 liters. The NDC and the Uwadaku didn't sell that contaminated fuel. What they did was that they had a company called TSL, and they came with the techniques to be able to do that, so that we got the market value for that particular fuel. Now, Uwadaku indeed resigned on the 5th of January 2017. As at the time he resigned, there was a single contaminated fuel at Bost. Not a single, a drop of contaminated fuel. Now, the current so-called contamination that they claim happened on the 18th of January 2017. Our position was that in the first place, there wasn't any contamination. That was a fabricated lie to rob the people of this country. Because if you tell us that you had 5 million liters of contamination, it was going to be contained by over 100 tankers.
Okay, that's fine. So you said, no, I'm coming. Mr. Wadako,
it happened on the 8th,
on the
5th of January 2017.
When did the new MD take office?
In fact, we were told that he took office before, but it proved out. A memo from boss indicated that he took over before 18th of January. But we're told that, oh, he took office after that. And the memo circulated there, signed by him. He took over before 18th of January, when the
You don't have the specific date?
Yes. In fact, the memo, I can get it for you even after this. But I'm saying that there was not even a drop of contamination under the NDC. And two, we believe, in our position was consistent by the position taken by other civil society groups, that story, that 5 million liters was a fabrication. Because 5 million liters of fuel should be contained in over 100 tankers. Boss doesn't have anywhere closer to 100 tankers. So where did they put those fuel? So that was a lie to rob the people of this country. So it is not true. Uwadaku resigned on the 5th of January. The so-called contamination happened on the 18th of what? Of January. And two, it is also not true that the contaminated fuel was sold higher. That is a fat lie. The contaminated fuel was sold at 1 cedis. But if they had taken steps to cleanse it through the process of slop, they would have sold it at 3 cedis, 85 pesos. So that is another lie. Two, immediately that thing happened, MPA, they issued a statement and said that that company was not even registered. We didn't issue the statement. Just last week, I read Manasseh's folder. Manasseh raised series of issues and made very serious allegations against no less a person than the president. And Manasseh says in his folder that the president indeed reprimanded the Minister for Energy for taking steps against the current boss and asked him to abandon whatever investigation that was going. So it is not surprising you have a government communicator who sits here and says that, oh yes, the fact that we are not told doesn't mean that there is nothing happening. A serious matter like this that bordered on fraud and robbery, and we are not told. Now, the interesting aspect of it also was that the very day the Minister for Energy held the press conference and said that he has constituted a committee to investigate it, the committee had a member of BNI representing. Yet the same minister told us that BNI had investigated it and the man had been exonerated. Are we a bunch of idiots in this country?
No, but the BNI had a report. So you're saying because the BNI had a report, the ministerial committee couldn't have worked?
Just look at, in the first place, we ask questions. Who asked the BNI? Who asked the BNI to do? Who asked the BNI to do the investigation? That is one. Two, Abena, as the way things work, if a minister wants an institution like the Bureau of National Investigation to participate in a committee set up by the ministry, they would have written to BNI, and BNI will give them an officer. That is one. Now, if you have a press conference on that very day, you come out with a members of committee, including BNI rep, yet you also brought in a report purporting to be an investigation that the BNI conducted. At the time when you were writing the letter to BNI informing them to give you a rep, at that time, Didn't you know that the BNI had investigated? And didn't the BNI inform you we have already conducted an investigation on that matter? This is just a funny cock and bull story.
So you're saying that
yes,
given the BNI report, the minister...
There was no any report. It was a lie perpetrated on candidates.
That's according to you.
Yes, that's what we believe.
That's according to
yes.
you. But they made reference to a BNI report.
Have you seen the report?
They made reference to a BNI report. Yeah. And following that, there was supposed to have been a committee report. But you are saying that given the BNI report, the existence of that, there shouldn't have been a BNI representative on the committee?
No, what I'm saying is that you have a press conference that was held by the minister, in which the minister indicated that he set up a committee to investigate the matter. And members of the committee included a rep of the BNI. Yet on that same press conference, he told us that the BNI had indeed submitted a report of investigation. And I'm saying that if you want to have an institution to send you a rep as a member of the committee that you have constituted, you would have written to the BNI. So the BNI would have responded with an officer. Okay, this officer would represent the BNI in that committee. At the time when you were writing to the BNI had already, or they would have known that, oh, we have conducted an investigation into the matter, and this. And
so they wouldn't have sent a representative.
They wouldn't have in any place. And two,
but if he is requesting that let's have a BNI representative on there, why not?
BNI representation on a committee that the BNI, you yourself claim on this very press conference that they have conducted.
Yes, but they had a different terms of reference, I want to believe, and the committee also had a different terms of reference.
As we sit today, nobody has seen any BNI report. As we see today, part of transparent.
Have you?
Oh, please,
John, please let him.
As we see today, nobody. And the critical question I ask: 5 million liters of fuel should be contained in over 100 tankers. Boss doesn't have anywhere closer to that. Did they keep that fuel in the heavens? That this 5 million liters. So what we are saying is that there was no any 5 million liters in the first place. It was just a perpetration of fraud on the people of this country. And we have asked the simple question. 5 million liters, where did you keep them? Now, why didn't you take steps to ensure that you clean it so that you can get the market value?
They stated that given the circumstances, they had 3 options, including the sale of the oil. They considered all 3 and settled for the sale. I mean, they talked about the fact that they couldn't have had it refined further because Tor wasn't functioning at the time.
If we can refine 200,000, because we felt that we didn't need to lose that money, 5 million. And the question is that the 5 million liters are supposed to be contained in over 100 tankers. Boss doesn't have anywhere closer to that. Now tell me, Abena, who asked the BNI to do the investigation on the matter? Who? Was it the Minister for Energy? Or the BNI just decided that we are going to have this investigation? And is it not instructive that you have Mr. Kennedy Japan, long before even this Cook stories started coming out, the so-called report, Mr. Kennedy Japan, a MPP member of parliament, threatened everybody except himself, and that if they touch the guy, there will be problem, and that he financed the MPP campaign. He said it publicly. So I am saying that you can sit here and say that these are stories created by the NDC. As a matter of fact, civil society, particularly Imani, they raise a series of questions about how the ministry conducted itself. The last time I checked, what Manasseh wrote and accusing the president of complicity last week, nobody has responded to that. Nobody. Manasseh said that the president took particular interest in it, and that the president reprimanded the minister for energy over it. And why did the minister indeed go ahead to even say he's constituting a committee to investigate it? Go and read the folder, and if you have a phone, you can even Google it. So I'm saying that the stories are there. You can sit here and say that it's an NDC, because I've realized that NDC has been mentioned more than 1 million times on this program. I haven't mentioned MPP up to even 3 times. NDC. The good people of this country voted you into power. And in any case, Abena, if you think that the contamination happened under the NDC, interestingly, the MPP is now taking steps to protect NDC functionaries who indeed contaminated fuel. It is a fat lie. The contamination happened, the so-called contamination, on the 18th of January 2017. Ewa Daku indeed resigned on the 5th of January 2017. This fraud was perpetrated on the people of this country by this government, and I'm saying that it's a symptom of many other things that they have done.
Very well. Let me go to Prof on this issue. Concluding remarks, Prof.
Well, when you listen to both sides, it shows that we are still not concluded. We don't have closure. There are issues of criminality that nobody has been locked up. Okay, the fact is, has there been any contamination of oil? Let's forget about the number for the meantime. Has there been something like that? If there's a case, up to now, we don't know whether anybody have actually been caught and punished. And don't forget, you see, we as ordinary consumers, okay, when we go to the filling stations to buy fuel, we don't have a particular gadget or particular instrument to test whether this oil coming into our cars are actually contaminated. So these are very, very serious issues. The political debate, the political connotation aside, I think this issue must be brought to closure. And the fact that this is not the first time it happened.
Exactly,
and that's why it happened before, right, over and over. And
there was a call for a holistic investigation into the bust operations from as far back as 2009, but we haven't seen that. I honestly believe that would have helped a great deal.
Probably something happened, like typical way we do things down here. Something might have happened, but people fudge it up somehow. But you see, the fact that it happened again and it happened again, are these things accidents or they are deliberate? And if they are deliberate, who is responsible for it? And we, the consumer, the people suffering. Yeah, the politicians can make all the debate they want to make. But at the end of the day, as we are sitting here, we have not brought this to closure. This is the latest episode. Doesn't mean that this will be the last episode. You are correct. If we don't tackle this, we don't bring to closure, whatever the government have done about this, they must let us know. Has there been a further investigation? Have they brought it to closure? Has somebody been punished? Where are the owner? Have they sold all of it? Would this happen again? What procedures have we put in place? It doesn't happen again. It happened during the NDC time. It's not happening now. I mean, there's a debate whether it happened, the latest one happened at the NDC time or happened at the APP time. That aside, the fact that it still happened at BOST, a Ghanaian institution run by Ghanaians, and their failure or their omissions here and there is actually making us suffer. So I think for me, this issue is not settled yet. We'll continue to talk about it. And by the way, at the end of the day, this government, you see, at whatever time this thing happened, the current government have a responsibility to bring this to closure.
Sure. And especially Parliament. Parliament has a role to play here. Updates as to where things are in respect of, any attempt to reform operations or activities at BOST. For instance, we could be given an update if Parliament were to summon the minister to Parliament to find answers as to where we are on these things. So again, you're looking at the role of Parliament.
Yes, but it's not going to happen. You see, before anything happens in this country, the politicians have taken positions. Look at this thing have been debated in Parliament. There are all costs here and there. We have never come to closure. You never know what exactly the fact. So when you take it down, they'll make a political football of it again. But at the end of the day, we as ordinary people, we don't know exactly what happened and where we are and what steps have been taken to prevent it. The MPP will say that we are doing something about it. It's not clear yet. And the NDC say, well, during our time, we saw some few things. It continued to happen. But I don't think even Parliament role, when you take this issue to the Parliament now, they'll take their positions. But the clear issue, which is confronting this country, and are we the only people who have this kind of organization? Every time there's a contamination of one side or the other, is it the process that we are using, or people deliberately contaminate the oil so that they go and sell it at a cheaper price and pocket this thing? I don't know where we are now. So basically, when you put it in the Parliament, I'm sure they will take their positions. It will take a while before we get to the bottom of this matter. Come next year, I think this issue will be debated again. We are not close yet.
Just a quick correction of facts, some of the lies that Mutala put out. In fact, the current MD was appointed on 18th of January. That's when his appointment was announced. He took over officially 23rd January. So even from his own dates, this man couldn't have been in office to supervise the contamination. It happened under the NDC, and I'm happy he said Ewadaku left in January. It happened under the NDC, and it will not happen under NPP. Since the NPP took over, all these things have ceased, and we have always heard about BOST now declaring profits and moving on. I think these are very important announcements, or these are important information that people must know, that these things happen under President Mahama and the NDC. It is no more going on, and going forward, we are not going to hear about these things.
Well, you see why we need
Abena,
we need to bring
wouldn't
closure
it
to
be
this
wouldn't
matter
it be
so that we
interest
can-
wouldn't it be
Abena,
Abena wouldn't it be in the interest of this government for transparency and the need to protect the public purse to let us find out who did the contamination?
We don't have any
Oh, please,
problem.
Just a minute, yes.
Please,
Just a
it's been
minute,
taking too long that people have indeed. You haven't answered the question of 5 million liters
Indeed, that's why-
that will be contained in
That's
100
why-
tankers.
that's why,
This
I mean,
government,
that
you see,
those-
Public fight.
you have
Just a
you have a
minute. We need to
responsibility.
move on to the next
Abena,
topic.
government has a
You choose to
responsibility.
find out, you will know.
I
Just a
listen.
minute.
Government has a responsibility to tell the people of this country who did the contamination. If you are not
There's
pushing
no
on
problem. I
Abena,
agree with
Abena,
you.
in this
Yes.
I
country,
want to ask Mutala
Abena,
whether the
Abena,
BNI
I'll come
report
to you.
is
I'll
solid.
come to you.
Abena, in this country,
The
Abena,
BNI report
John, I'll come to you.
Abena, in this country, we're told
saw the moon
that
too.
over 200 vehicles at the Flagstaff House were missing.
We need
Interested
to
know
move
who
on.
took them.
Very well.
We want to
That's
know.
fine. Hold your
We have
horses,
to know.
gentlemen.
Now, why is taking
That's
over
fine.
a year?
Thank you
Now,
very
take
much.
your time.
Come
Very
in.
soon you
Thank
know
you.
that.
Thank you,
He
John.
says that BNI report
Thank
was
you,
not
John.
made public. I want to know whether the
Thank
Muntie
you.
report,
Thank
the
you, John.
BNI
That's
report,
fine.
it was a cooked report. Okay,
Thank you very much.
The Muntie one.
BNI
Okay,
was
thank
a
you.
cooked report.
So
There wasn't
BNI
any
now
report.
cooks
Thank you
reports.
very
Oh,
much,
yes,
gentlemen.
That's what they did.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. We don't need this kind of banter on the show. Seriously, you're not doing yourselves any good to the viewers and listeners. Seriously. But we need to move on to look at another issue which also dominated discussions in the course of the year and has to do with the fight against Galamsey. We'll do that quickly and then look at the EC and happenings there. The fight against Galamsey. I mean, there was so much talk about destruction of our water bodies, the environment in general, farmlands and all of that. And the fact that if we didn't step up on the fight, or even start doing something about it, we stood a great risk of, having shortage of potable water, to the extent that the Ghana Water Company Limited actually said in 20 years, if we are not, diligent in our dealings, we would have to import water. And the thought of that, I think, that's why I said in the intro that it was a call to action. I think that shook us to the core. Then we realized that, hey, we need to do something about this. And I mean, since then we've been engaging in this whole anti-Galamsey, course. There's been some successes realized, and again, of course, maybe depending on which side of the political aisle you are on, you would see it as successes or something else. But objectively, I think we've seen some traction in terms of how government is moving on with this. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, personally, I must commend. I think he's done a yeoman's job. He took this thing up seriously and worked hard. There's been some task force subsequently set up and all. We're looking at that. I'll start with you, Mutala. You ended us, but I want to start with you on this one. Looking at how we've moved in terms of the fight against Galamsey, like I said, there's been some successes, but obviously there are some challenges. Yeah. And moving forward, what would you recommend to be some of the strategies to step up on the campaign? Because at the end of the day, you're looking at Ghana as a country and the challenges this poses to us. We heard recently that the president commissioned or launched the secretariat of the Interministerial Committee, which obviously, I mean, in the scheme of things, is a step in the right direction.
Well, Abena, my position on this Galamsey thing has been, it's been consistent. It's been consistent when I was the Deputy Minister for Information. I do remember that this issue came, if you like, to the head when the issue of Galamsey and the fact that our water bodies were being destroyed and the fact that we had other foreign nationals. You had Chinese who were hugely, noted, and you had Indians, you had South Africans, you had some Nigerians who were all engaged, Russians who were engaged in it. I remember a decision was taken, and the decision that was taken by the NDC government at that time was a huge decision, a decision that made the NDC hugely unpopular, particularly in the areas where these young people were engaged in, and a decision that could have resulted into a diplomatic row between government of Ghana at that time and the Chinese government. I remember that there was a time the Chinese government sent a high-powered delegation led by someone who is in the rank of a minister of foreign affairs, or a vice president more or less in the Communist Party, who came to Ghana And I was privileged to have sat in the meeting he had with His Excellency, the Vice President at that time. And initially he was furious. He talked about the long-standing relationship that exists between the government of Ghana and the people of Ghana and China. And the fact that, you know, trying and deporting, you know, repatriating, if you like, Chinese was something that was a dent to our long-standing diplomatic relationship. And I remember that the anger with which he spoke, His Excellency the Vice President, in his usual demeanor, told him that he needed to see the destruction that happened to our water bodies. So they brought the chopper, the helicopter. The Chinese, that man entered with some of the military. They went around the water bodies that were extremely destroyed. And the following day, I was fortunate again to be sitting in that meeting. And he himself said that what he saw, he think that government of Ghana was right in taking the kind of decisions government took. He only asked about the fact that those decisions and the actions should be done within the atmosphere of, if you like, rule of law. And that even in China, they will not countenance such, where you have their water bodies being destroyed. And you remember the issue of, you know, repatriating the Chinese who were there and other things was. But you see, so this government also came and continued. It's something that I think that largely we haven't done partisan politics with. The reason is that it is destroying our livelihood, it is destroying our agriculture, the vegetation, and in fact, we are seeing the consequences of climate change. And as a result of what happened in the industrial nations, we are not that industrialized. But the fact that we cut down trees and destroy the vegetation, and most importantly, the habitat within which animals can also live, who are also source of life to us. You know, all those things are things that affect us. We need the vegetation. We breathe out carbon dioxide, but we need oxygen to be able to survive. The plants need the carbon dioxide that we breathe out. We get that oxygen from the vegetation and then the environment within which we live. Today, this government, I have no problem commending the government and commending the minister for that action, because look, it's an action that can make you unpopular, just as it made the NDC unpopular because we took a bold step. But I believe that continuing with that action will make people understand that yes, these are some of the actions we must. So those engaged in it would appreciate the fact that it doesn't matter which political party. Once we are all united in our quest to fight this menace, it doesn't matter whether NDC or MPP. And you must not be taking a position and say, okay, we'll vote you out because we want ABCD. We had videos where people who engage in Galamsey, Akwetia, they were talking about the fact that they finance the government, blah, blah, and therefore they are getting, the government didn't budge. They continue with that. And I do know strongly that, inshallah, the NDC, inshallah, when we win 2020, which we would win, by God's grace, this is something that we certainly would have to continue. Abena, I happen to have represented the Ministry of Trade on Cocoa Board. There's a damning and shocking story sometimes about the effects of these Galamsey activities on some of our foreign exchange and commodities. And if we make a big mistake, assuming that the signals we were getting happen to be something that confirmed, and it is going to affect our largest foreign exchange earner, imagine the consequences on it. But let's understand, the fight is a multifaceted one. You have politicians who are engaged in that business. You have members of parliament who are engaged in that business. You have regional ministers, DCEs, MCEs. You have police officers, and you have many other people who are engaged in it. And you have a whole people who indeed got into that business and abandoned their previous livelihood, means of livelihood. Today, it has become a social issue that they have abandoned what they were engaged in long before they ventured into this business. Now, there's a step, there's a move that ensures that you can engage in it. Now they turn up to the people as if our livelihoods have been destroyed, and therefore it is the responsibility of the state to provide that. Listen to some of the comments His Excellency the President made when he was a candidate. He promised some of the communities that they were not going to disband it. Let us also understand that small-scale mining is not an illegality. What government is saying, and I think that what previous government have said, let's regularize it, such that you can engage in it. You can still do your small-scale mining. That ensures that the environment is protected. Water bodies are being destroyed because people make money. They don't look at the consequences of it. You have many people who are engaged in agriculture who have abandoned it because they move in. The land are sold to the people by traditional authorities. That is what happens. So the traditional authorities should play a significant role
I watched the Deputy Minister for Chieftaincy, and for me, I was encouraged. I watched him on TV, I think on TV3, about 2 days today. The fact that there is something that they want to do, and government is giving the traditional authorities the impetus, the strength, or the power to be able to do some of these things. But that cannot be achieved if the traditional authorities themselves do not take the lead. Right. We have had a military officer who was gruesomely murdered as a result of trying to protect the environment. If anybody who gets into any traditional area, you cannot have access to any land to do galamsey without getting the right to do that from the traditional authorities. So I think that for me it's a positive sign now involving the traditional authorities and ensuring that they take the lead. Galamsey is not happening only in southern Ghana. We have gold that is found in part of northern Ghana, in part of Volta region, and these things are things that will affect us. We need to galvanize forces together, devoid of NDC, NPP as is being paraded often, and fight this menace. I think that is equal to terrorism, to be very honest with you.
We don't need that. You mean galamsey? Yes, the impact of it. Yes, let me move to John here. The government has is implementing the MMIP, that's the multilateral mining integrated project, and basically introduced to sanitize the system, so give alternative livelihoods to people previously engaged in the illegality, so they are able to do things in accordance with law and all of that. There are those who are saying perhaps it would be difficult to get more people to buy into this because of how, you're looking at galamsey being a very lucrative enterprise, quick money here and there. Because I was listening to some, I think one of the gentlemen who is under the project, he was talking highly about the fact that yes, he's been introduced into farming now, but of course compared to galamsey, he's not able to get money as quickly as he used to in that area. So what is government's plan to get more people to buy into this? Because it's a 5-year project. There's been some commitment in terms of finance to it. We need to make it succeed.
Yeah.
So what's government's plan to get more people to buy into this?
Yeah, okay, thank you. I think the problem of galamsey, it's one important issue that as a nation, I think we are all united to addressing it. And the alternative is disaster for us and for posterity, because already going out into the hinterlands or into other parts of the country, you realize that all our water bodies have turned brown, and at a point we're losing even lives. I mean, fish and stuff cannot, aquaculture was being lost. And I think that the efforts of the government, and of course with the support of the entire country, must be commended, because so far we know that the effect of stopping galamsey have not been easy, because the reality is that lots of people, and we are talking about hundreds and thousands of individuals, were earning their livelihood through this galamsey business. So the cost has not been easy. But like I've already stated, the alternative is also disaster.
It's no alternative, actually.
There's no alternative. So we all have to continue to support. And let me also commend Mutala and, of course, the NDC for their support for this fight. I mean,
that's where the clouds are gathering.
Oh yes, they must gather, because sometimes as a nation we must begin to see some things are beyond politics. Whether it is MPP or NDC, we must begin to understand that our life matter. And today is NDC, tomorrow to be MPP, or today is MPP, tomorrow to be NDC. That's how, as a nation, we've come to accept ourselves. So there are some things we must not bring in politics, and I think so far they have conducted themselves well in pushing for the environment to be protected. And of course, the government has not relented. And as we speak, a number of alternative arrangements are being done to economically engage individuals and persons who are earning some living from galamsey. And that is where I think we must continue to double our efforts. Because the incentives for going into galamsey obviously are higher than if you're trying to settle them in an alternative job arrangement. So we need to let people understand that, look, going forward with mining let me say, irresponsible mining in the manner that we have done over the years is not sustainable. And if we have to protect our environment, we all have to make some sacrifices. And I hope that individuals who are into this galamsey business will understand that we are first and foremost human beings living on this planet. And our habitat is Ghana. And when we destroy our water bodies, as it was being predicted that in the next 20 years, we will all not have water to live on, then how are we going to live in our part of the world? So clearly, we all have a responsibility. We need to protect our environment, and we need to let them understand that they also have a role to play, and they must look at the alternative government is offering. It is not coming at a lesser cost. It is also very, very expensive trying to settle all these people. But it is always worthwhile if at the end of the day we are still going to engage these people economically and protect our environment, then we must do. But I must also state clearly that government is not against mining. We are, however, against irresponsible mining that leaves our environment in the devastation that we find itself. And we all have to do something about it, especially the stakeholders, the traditional leaders, the youth in our various communities. It is not only about today, it's also about tomorrow. And at least when you pass through our rivers now, it is not wholly clean now, but at least there's some improvement. And we must also commend the Operation Vanguard. The soldiers are also doing their best, and I hope that they will continue to protect these water bodies and our environment, because the alternative for us as a nation will be very disastrous. And we all must continue to keep our eyes on the goal to make sure that we protect our environment and stop irresponsible mining in this country.
Very well. Quick question though. There was a directive for work to cease on various sites.
Yes.
With this, I mean, currently there's still that directive.
Yes.
So when are they to resume work? Those legally engaged, because currently there's that cessation of work.
I know it's as even affected the small-scale miners.
Exactly.
I think the date will be reviewed. I think they said that January or February. The last extension they gave ends, and I think either late January or early February. And the decision to review, of course, is left with the Interministerial Committee who are studying the environment and looking at how best they can allow people to mine responsibly. Because at the end of the day, we cannot also allow people to go back and only for us to see even worse forms of what was happening before. All the sacrifices and the successes we have made will be in vain then. So as they are taking their time to review the ban and to see how best they can improve on the situation, I think we should be a bit patient. And like I've said, it's not easy because people are actually living on that. So we'll leave the decision with the technical committee that have been put up and the advice they think they can offer, so that at the end of the day we cannot go back, or we don't want to see what we saw before when it came to mining.
We hope it's done pretty soon, because obviously there are investments.
They understand what people are going through. I think they are also doing their best to ensure
we just hope it's brought to a closure soon as well. Yes, Prof, let's hear you on this. I mean, the challenges, I mean, it's been a difficult battle, successes chalked here and there, but there's been the issues about prosecution of offenders, and that has been a difficult thing here, because back and forth of it. I think there's been reports about, some convictions, but then the sanctions that were meted out, people are saying, well, this is not deterrent enough. But unfortunately, that is what we have currently on our books in terms of sentencing. You have a judge has to work within a framework of sentencing. So really, how do we get to make this deter people from engaging in this? Obviously, you would want to have a perfect system, but you can't. There would be people who would definitely want to circumvent, the laws and do their own thing.
Yeah. Yes, first I want to join my colleagues to congratulate ourselves, whole Ghana, on the way we took on this battle, this time around. You see, the Galamsey issue didn't come in a hurry, and it's not going to go in a hurry. We allow it to go deep and settle down. We involve all kind of people, chiefs, policemen, as Honorable Mutara said. A lot of powerful people have been involved, and then employ a lot of youth, of course, illegally doing things which is damaging all these things. So it didn't come in a hurry. So nobody should think that the effort, commendable, that the government have put in place. The government should be congratulated for that. There are a lot of things we're not government for, but this one, they took leadership. But I think they should not start to think that, well, this leadership we've taken is going to take us there. No. They're going to do something more than that. We are at the beginning of an exercise solving a problem which is multifaceted. Because you see, the Galamsey issue, you see, we don't have a real industrial economy. Okay? We don't have industrial sector, serious one, to boast of. Our economy is mainly distributive. We buy this from China, from Dubai, Korea, take it to Mokala, and sell. We are basically a distributive economy. You can go to Mokala this day, I bet you 99% of the goods there were not produced in Ghana. Okay? So we are a distributing economy. Now the next economy, which we rely on very much, is agriculture. Okay? Agriculture is also tied into the Galamsey issue. So that's why it's so serious. Okay? So agriculture, which is the backbone of our economy, because we have failed to industrialize, is tied to this problem. Then the another industry, which is the extractive industry, the money industry, which contributes a lot to our GDP, is also tied to the Galamsey issue. Okay? For example, when you post an embargo on the small-scale farming, it affects a particular industry. Remember, we don't have industrial sector. We have agriculture, which is being messed up by the Galamsey problem. And also the environmental problem, okay, which is causing climatic change. Harmattan is coming or Harmattan is not coming. So this Galamsey issue is much bigger than we thought. And we left it for too long across various governments, okay, to be deep-seated. And now we have just woke up and we're doing something. Yes, we must be commended, the media in particular. So it's great that at least when Ghanaians are called on to address an issue, we can put our policies behind and try to come together.
Right.
But I must caution that we are in the beginning of a very complicated issue. Now, for example, you see the youth employing a Galamsey, that is their livelihood. You just can't go there and shut it down. You're going to have a social problem. They must be engaged somewhere. Where do you engage them? Agriculture. They don't want to go there. The youth don't want to go into agriculture. Agriculture is a slow lane. The rain never come. The rain come at the wrong time. That is the last place, and our agriculture is not mechanized. Okay, in some countries like South Africa, agriculture is a big-time business. America is a big-time business, not here. The primitive agriculture we do here, the youth are not, this WhatsApp youth are not interested. Okay? They are not interested. So any government will think that we're going to divert them for agriculture, they must think again. I don't envy this government. They have a big problem on their hand.
Right.
Where are you going to divert these young people? That's one big problem you see. Then, if you close like the mind, you're going to have a social problem in your community. Forget about whether they're going to vote you back or not. That's another issue. The strategy is going to suffer. Agriculture is already suffering. So I must caution that we are at the beginning of a solution to a problem which will be around for a long time. Let's not kid ourselves. The government can set up these committees, but for this particular one, let's continue the way we are doing and multi-party approach, sustain it, but don't kid ourselves that we are at the end of it. We are not. Because all those guys, by the way, those Galamsey people, they are patrons, the politicians, the chiefs, the youth, they just lie low for a while.
Waiting to strike.
Well, that is their livelihood. They are lying low and see whether, like typical way we do things, the government will forget and then we will zoom in again. And this time when they come in, they'll be very clever about it. They'll be very clever about it. My last note is that this is the Galamsey issue. Some people may disagree with me. It's not about the Chinese. Yeah. It's not about the Indians. It's not about the Nigerians. It's about Ghanaians. Yep. Who gave the Chinese a visa to come here? Which visa did you give him? Did you give a visa to come and mine did you give him a money visa? You didn't give a money visa. So when he came here, how did you process him? So the caterpillars they brought in, they come to the port. We don't manufacture caterpillars here. So a lot of this is about us. Okay? There are a lot of publicity I've been giving about this Chinese lady. What did you call her? Yes? Aisha. Yeah, very good. And knows yes, everybody thought that. Everybody thought that the persecution about that lady is a bigger issue involving Ghanaians. Okay? At the processing end, at the demand end, so I think we can commend ourselves, which is justifiable, but we must know we are in the beginning of a long struggle to save our extractive industry, to save our agriculture, to provide jobs for the thousands of our youth who will be displaced when we manage to solve the Galamsey issue. So I commend the government, but we are at the beginning of a long fight.
Very well.
Can I just make this quick? I think that
seconds,
this one, like I said, we're on the same wavelength. I think that sometimes we don't get our priorities right as a country. We have a National Development Commission that worked on a document. I was encouraged when His Excellency the President, the document was handed over to him, and the statements he made, I just want to believe that they were not just politically motivated statements, but statements that he certainly will follow through. There is nothing wrong with political parties having an agenda, but our agendas at any point in time should be tailored through the National Development Planning Commission's blueprint. Abena, I had problems with LIP. When we were in opposition, I had problems with it. When we got the opportunity to govern this country, I had problems with it. I remember I made a statement on the floor questioning the rationale behind LIP. I was virtually verbally lynched. And you see, I made that statement out of information. I served in the finance committee. I went through how much we spend every year on LIP. And you'll be shocked the hundreds of millions of Ghana cedis we spend on LIP. Now, the reason is that the moment you begin to raise the technical and intellectual question, people will begin to take it as a social problem. Abena, that, oh, you give the money to the aged, people who cannot work. Now, if you look at the communities that this LIP is done, it's done in communities that are heavily poor. In communities that the unemployment rate is also very huge. Now, you have an old man who has about 4 grandchildren, who are all able young men and women who don't have jobs. You give the old man 50 Ghana cedis or 70 Ghana cedis a month because you think that you are assisting the old man. The old man cannot survive on the 70 Ghana cedis or 50 Ghana cedis a month. Are you getting what I'm saying? But you see, when you look at how much is being spent in a particular district a year, if you use that money, you can create a job opportunities, a growth pool for several young people to get jobs. So if the old man has about 2 of his grandchildren having a job to do there, one, they will earn a decent salary, they will take care of themselves, take care of their grandfather, and perhaps take care of their siblings who do not have jobs. Even the selection of it is creating problems because they select household. In the communities where you have this thing implemented, you can come to one hut, let's say one compound. You have a man and his brothers who all are all household. So I think that we need to look at it. And I'm yet to see anywhere in the world where poverty is reduced by just simply doling out money. And I think we should look at this argument in the context of how much have we spent so far. Let's do an impact assessment, and I believe that we would have to take away LIP, use that money to provide these growth pools that will create jobs for these people.
Very well. I think point well made. We'll need to take a break, and when we come back, we'll conclude on this and move on to the EC conversation, because there's a lot of issues to be looked at with that particular topic. We'll take a break. We'll see you shortly. Welcome back. This is Newday Saturday edition, live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7 and online at 3news.com, also on Facebook at TV3 Ghana. We will be wrapping up on this topic, the anti-Galamsey issue, and we'll move on to the EC matter. But let me take some messages quickly, and then we'll go straight to the EC. This one says, this is from Derek in Lagos. It says, good morning to you and your panelists. Please, why is it that, okay, you hardly invite any female to the show? Well, 2018, you'll see more females. I can promise you that. Keep up the good work, though. You're doing such a fine job. God bless you. I must congratulate the government for the fight against Galamsey. Let the government not relent on this effort. I plead with, okay, we want to listen to facts from your panelists. Happy and favored 2018. That's Chief from Spintex. Nanado did very well in terms of Galamsey, but my question is, has it really stopped? That is, has Galamsey really stopped? The president has done marvelously on fighting Galamsey. That is coming in from Okaden Ajanim. Good morning, Abna. I expect the reps of NPP and the NDC to respect we, the viewers, and Prof. They should shun the propaganda and speak to the issues. This is Papa Kwesi and Fiapa Close, Community 18. Abna, the Boss saga was cleared by the Commander-in-Chief of the, he says what, clearing agent, that is the President himself, the President. Okay, so this is coming in from Kofi Seidu. This one says, please, Motala, spare us with your innuendos. Fuel is not kept in the heavens. It is the NDC that constructed roads in the heavens. Obviously, roads are not constructed in the heavens either. The BNI report was factual and truthful. Contaminated fuel occurred under the NDC. That's Kusi in Edriso Besiase. Good morning. It's business as usual. The NPP man is blaming the NDC for the contamination, and the NDC man will also point at the NPP for the contamination, and this will continue forever. Ghana is just about loot. It says create, loot, and share, and clear ourselves from any wrongdoing. There comes the ordinary naive Ghanaian who will jump to their defense. I pray God broadens their minds to let us think straight. And that is Ray Ziga. It's coming from Ray Ziga. Nanado is not, it says, committed to the fight against corruption. Alleged corruption in his government, no need to be investigated, but rather the president will clear the individual involved anytime he had a chance to address Ghanaians. You can talk about bust, 100,000 golden seat, etc. We need to fight corruption, not a corruption clearing agency. Thanks for your messages so far. We'll quickly move on to our last topic for the day. We just have about some less than 15 minutes to wrap up on the show, but we'll touch on the happenings at the Electoral Commission. I think that really was an issue this year. John, start us off.
Oh, okay. First of all, let me start on a note of caution, because
Oh yes, we are not going to go into the, substance of it.
The judiciary has warned that this matter is before a committee.
Yes.
And we must all be mindful about our comments because we could be cited for contempt. And so I will leave it as it is. I think that we must all respect that there are laws in this country and nobody is above the law. And the same laws that put us in place also have ways to get us out if we go contrary to the laws. And I think that, as far as I'm concerned, at the moment, the processes have been triggered. The problems of the EC is no secret to Ghanaians. We know the infighting amongst them when the EC herself reported some of her deputies, then her deputies also did counter reports, and we all saw what was going on as an internal problem. But you see, the Electoral Commission is such a pivotal agency in our democracy, and whatever we all need to protect it, we have to do so objectively and hope that whatever steps are being taken as enshrined in our constitution will be followed, so that at the end of the day, whatever resolution that is prescribed will be accepted and that we can move on as a country. We need to protect the integrity of institutions like the Electoral Commission. And where there are genuine difficulties, as it's obvious for everybody to see, we need to go through these processes and hope that at the end of the day, when the committees come out with their findings, it will satisfy the nation and also help us to move on, and hope that these things are not repeated, because it is not in anybody's interest that institutions like the Electoral Commission go through what we are seeing it going through. But some things are inevitable. I mean, every nation will have these things in their history. And I think that over time, as we learn more from some of these issues, we will not repeat them in the future. But it is also another issue that is being politicized by especially the NDC. And yes, I mean, I know Mutala, I've heard him severally speak on this matter. And my only caution is that at least on this program, he will refrain from contemptuous statements so that he doesn't find himself in trouble. But, no, I won't gag you. I mean, I've heard you severally, so I'm just advising you ahead. But you keep quiet. Let me make my submissions.
You invited me.
I didn't invite you. I didn't invite you. I'm just advising you. So clearly, this is a matter. This is a matter that I think we must handle as a nation. We must all see that it is critical to our forward movement in our democracy, and that whatever we must all do to protect the integrity of the institution. Not as for the personalities, they may change all the time, but the institution as EC will forever remain. So whoever is there we should make sure that he's there in accordance with laws and he's operating according to the same laws that put him there or her there.
Right.
So I think that because the matter is before a judicial committee and they have issued a public statement to warn us to desist from the contents, the discussion of the contents and how things must be handled, I think I'll take it on this note and say that I wish that whatever decisions or discussions that will come out will be something that will heal this nation and help us to keep the integrity of the institution and move on well as a nation.
Right. Move on to Murtala.
Abina, first and foremost, I think that yes, I agree that we have been warned not to, but that doesn't, prevent us from commenting on issues as long as
yes, but not the substance
I agree,
of it.
As long as the comments are not to the substance of the case. I think that every proceedings, criminal or civil, should be anchored on fairness or fair trial and natural justice at any point in time. There have been a lot of issues raised, and I think that the judiciary themselves would admit that in as much as the issue is before the judiciary, I think that people also need to know what is going on. I think personally that if the judiciary could do what they did with regards to the Supreme Court the petition, so that this thing is done live.
No, but that is obviously not going to happen. It's supposed to be done in camera according to the Constitution.
It can happen. It can happen.
It won't happen.
It can happen.
To go contrary to the constitutional provisions.
The CJ can take a decision on that. If we had the petition that was the petition
should be distinguished
again,
from.
I'm saying that yes, if that would have been good, because clearly it's a matter of tremendous interest to the people.
I hear you, I understand, but I think we shouldn't create the impression that it could be done and we don't want to do, so that if people don't see it being done, they suggest something. It can be. The Constitution says it's supposed to be held in camera.
That's why I use a conditional statement. That's why
people listening, watching, that's what it is.
That is why I made a conditional statement. I'm saying that if they could, because the point is that it's of tremendous interest to the people of this country. More so when you have a political party that is bent on getting the woman out. There is no question at all about that. This is a woman who was appointed. The woman conducted an elections. The elections were won by the opposition. When the woman was appointed, you had a sitting member of parliament in the person of Kennedy Ajapong, who called the woman all kinds of names but a prostitute. Every single name was given to this woman, a married woman. Every single political party, including civil society groups, condemned Kennedy Ajapong in the statement he made, except the NPP. The NPP was the only political party that didn't see anything wrong with the statement he made. And I remember the acting general secretary, when they asked him, he said, Kennedy Ajapong's statement most often turns out to be true, and therefore you can never tell. You had its current minister of state, who is a woman, Honorable Otiko Jaba, who went to town and lambasted this woman. I'm saying that when you have events like that, people will begin to question the motive. People would. We were told in this country that a petition was submitted at the presidency. This information was an official statement issued by the communication director at the Flagstaff House. When you journalists wanted to know those who were signatories to that particular petition, he said there wasn't signatories. Now, we haven't been told when a proper petition, because if you look at Article 146, I am very convinced that the Chief Justice would not have admitted something that was not qualified to be a proper petition. Because assuming that what we're told they received from the Flagstaff was what was forwarded to the Chief Justice, I believe that the Chief Justice would have just thrown it away. But for the Chief Justice to determine and looked at it, considered it, and then said that there was a prima facie, it means that what was submitted or forwarded to the Chief Justice was a proper petition that had signatures to it. Now, we are not being told, is it whether the people who submitted the petition, for which we were communicated to by the communication director that it didn't have signatures, is it that they called them back to come and provide signatures, or they asked them to present a new petition, which we do not know?
But the chairperson, Mrs. Charlotte Osei, had requested for a copy of
that
the
is
petition.
what I'm saying.
We haven't heard
you
that
have
she hasn't been given.
You have the presidency.
If she had an issue with it,
no, you have the presidency that says that they are not under any compulsion.
Exactly,
and it's true. But I'm saying
CJ, yes.
I'm saying it's true. But I'm saying that as citizens of this country, we have the responsibility as part of transparent governance to know when you have a communication director at the Flagstaff House,
publicly issued a statement and said, oh, the presidency had received a petition. Now, you journalists wanted to know who were the signatories to it. Said there wasn't any signatory to the petition. Now, suddenly we are being told that the petition was forwarded to the Chief Justice, and the Chief Justice, looking at it, established that there was a prima facie. So what I'm saying is that the Chief Justice certainly couldn't have done that if it was not a proper petition that has signatures. So the question then is, at what time did they provide the signatures? Is it that they asked the people to come and submit a new petition? We are not being told.
Well, we don't know. We don't know that. We can't delve into the
speculative
of all of
petition
exactly.
A petition would have please hold on.
John,
No,
just a minute. Let him.
A petition must have a name. A petition must have a name. A petition must be signed. There must be a face behind a petition. Now, if you are telling me that they are not signatories, then who are the faces behind the petition? That is the point I'm making.
Very well.
I'm saying that if the petition was sent to the CJ, and I am very convinced that the CJ received a proper petition with names and signatures behind it. Now, at what point in time did they provide the signatures? Is it that the presidency asked them to submit a new? If they did so, what is the interest of the presidency? But the last point I'll make is that you don't need an elected commissioner to win an elections. You win an elections at the polling station based on the, and I think with the next we are experiencing, these guys will be
Thank you very much, Mutala. Now, Prof, take us home on this one.
For all the issues we tackled today, the Founders Day, the bus issue, the Galamsey issue, and now the EC issues are going to run next year.
Yeah. Okay,
this is work in progress. But unfortunately, on this issue, we are not going to have a soft landing. Whichever way we land this issue in 2018, after the committee that finished their work, the political parties are going to take the position. Because if you look at the preamble to this, Honorable Mutala, Comrade Mutala,
and Honorable John.
Okay.
So
this is a comrade, and that is what?
Okay. Please allow Prof to finish.
So whatever position, the preamble to this, it's very clear that the political parties have taken their position. So whatever way the outcome of this committee that's appointed by the Chief Justice the land, there's always going to be an issue that some people will not be happy. For me, the sad thing about this saga is that the three senior people of the EC, I don't think they can work together, whichever way this thing goes. So what is going to happen to our EC? Are we going to, you see what I mean? If the EC, the current EC stays, are the two deputies going to stay? Okay, those are issues because the personal issue between the two of them. Yeah, everybody say accuse you business is going to create a problem for us. And I hope we settle down this issue long enough, with enough time to prepare for the next election. Because if this drags on to the next election, we're going to be very, very serious. In fact, the main issue, the legality of this issue will be what? Will be meshed in all kind of political debates. Who is supposed to be there? Who is not supposed to be there? And I think that is my biggest worry. But I'm sure this issue is going to run. And it's not going to be a soft landing. It's going to be a very, very hard landing. But once that happens, we must be mindful that at the end of the day, we must have a electoral commission that we can all say that, well, we have some confidence in, so that elections is no question of what? Dispute. The electoral commission is no more the story, but actually the elections become the story.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Prof. Indeed. Thank you to the panelists, Mutala Mohammed, Comrade, Professor Clement Jidonu, Mr. John Kuma, and also to our cherished viewers and listeners. We couldn't have come this far without you. We do appreciate your commitment, your loyalty, your patronage to the show. We truly, truly appreciate that. And we wish you the best of the new year. Yes. We will be back here in the new year next week, Saturday, and the show promises to be even better, more insightful, more engaging, more stimulating. But do have yourselves a very good end of year and new year. See you next year. Lovely. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.